My husband never came home, he disappeared, and even the police couldn't find him, I said. Sounds like he just ran away, my sister replied coldly. Maybe he got tired of you. Her words sent shivers down my spine. My name is Ella, and I have a twin sister named Charlotte. We look alike, but our parents always loved Charlotte more. Dad, can I have some money? I'm going out with my friends, Charlotte would ask sweetly. Didn't you already spend your allowance? Yeah, but I promise I'll do great on my finals. Please, Dad? Alright, here you go. Thanks, Daddy, you're the best. Charlotte was charming and manipulative, so my parents spoiled her. I, on the other hand, was quiet and shy. They often ignored me. Dad, I need to buy a book for my homework, I asked once. I already gave you your allowance, use it wisely, he said. Okay, I mumbled. Charlotte wasn't satisfied with just being the favorite, she wanted everything I had, too. Hey, Ella, I like that outfit, I want it, she said one day. No, I bought this with my allowance, I protested as she rummaged through my drawer. I think it'll look better on me, I'm taking it. Stop, that's mine. Mom, Ella's being mean, Charlotte cried out. Ella, don't be so selfish, Mom scolded. Let your sister have it. But why? I asked, hurt. No matter what, my parents always took Charlotte's side. If she wanted something, she got it, even if it belonged to me. I quietly endured everything, but when I graduated college, I got a job far from home. Finally, I didn't have to see my parents or Charlotte as often, and it felt like a relief. But the years of being compared to her left me with little confidence. I avoided fun and excitement, focusing only on my work. Then, I met Daniel during a business meeting. Here's the document you requested, I said. Thank you, this is so thorough, he replied with a smile. I hope it helps. It does, you're amazing. Would you like to have dinner sometime? I was surprised. I'd never had dinner alone with a man before, but I said yes. Over time, he asked me out more often. One day, Daniel looked at me and said, Ella, will you be my girlfriend? Me? Are you sure? I asked, stunned. Of course, you're beautiful, kind, and everything I've ever wanted. No one had ever said anything like that to me before. My heart swelled with joy. I'm so happy, thank you, Daniel, I said, my eyes brimming with tears. Daniel was hardworking, thoughtful, and responsible. He worked for a big company, made good money, and lived a stable life. After a few years of dating, we got married. I became a full-time housewife and moved into his parents' house. Mom, Dad, this is Ella. She's part of the family now, Daniel said with a smile. Welcome, Ella. We've heard you're a hardworking young woman, his mom said warmly. We're family now, so feel at home, okay? Thank you, I'll do my best, I replied, feeling relieved by their kind welcome. Daniel's parents run a small business, and their house was spacious. I quickly formed a good relationship with them, and they treated me with respect and kindness. How about we all go out for dinner tonight? Daniel's dad suggested one evening. Ella, what would you like to eat? Oh, anything you like is fine. How about Italian? There's a new restaurant nearby, Daniel's mom said. Italian sounds great. Perfect, Ella, order anything you want, Daniel added. They were always so thoughtful and made me feel included. One day, Daniel's mom handed me a delicate necklace. Ella, this necklace would look lovely on you. I used to wear it, but I'd like you to have it now. Really? It's beautiful. Thank you so much. I'm happy you'll wear it. You're my daughter now, she said, smiling. For the first time, I felt truly loved and appreciated. Living with Daniel's family was so different from my old life. I finally had a home where I felt safe and cherished. I thought this happiness would last forever. But one evening, Daniel didn't come home. Has Daniel called you? His mom asked. No, I've tried calling and texting, but there's no reply, I said, feeling uneasy. Do you think something happened? Maybe check with his friends. I'll try, I said, my voice shaking. Daniel had gone to work that morning as usual, but he never returned. I called his friends and coworkers, but no one had seen or heard from him. Desperate, I reported his disappearance to the police, but they couldn't find anything either. I couldn't stop thinking he might have been in an accident. Anxiety consumed me, and our peaceful life fell apart. My in-laws were heartbroken, sitting on the sofa with tears in their eyes. Where could he have gone? How could this happen? His mom whispered through her sobs. Seeing their sadness, I started to blame myself. Maybe I did something wrong without realizing it. Maybe it's my fault he left. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was to blame, and if it was my fault, maybe I didn't deserve to stay in this house anymore. I thought this family was my safe place, my home, but after Daniel disappeared, despair consumed me. I locked myself in my room and cried. One evening, my phone rang. My heart leaped. Could it be him? But the call wasn't from Daniel. It was from my sister, Charlotte. She rarely calls for anything important. Most of the time, she just brags, talks endlessly, and makes me feel small. This time, though, I couldn't hold it in. I told her everything. Hey, Ella, what's up? Not good, I said softly. Really? What's wrong? My husband, he disappeared. What? That boring guy from your wedding? He vanished? She said, laughing. Yes, the police couldn't find him either, I admitted. Well, maybe he just got tired of you and ran away. Her words stung. She laughed like it was a joke, but part of me wondered if it was true. I started to blame myself even more. Maybe I'd done something wrong without realizing it. The guilt ate at me, day after day. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, and started to think about leaving the house. One night, as I went downstairs for some water, I overheard my in-laws talking in the living room. What is he thinking? This isn't right, my father-in-law said. I feel so sorry for Ella, she's been through so much, my mother-in-law replied. It makes no sense for him to leave her like this. It only makes sense if he had an accident or something, he added. Hearing their concern for me made me burst into tears. Despite their own pain, they cared about me. Their kindness reminded me I couldn't stay lost in despair. My in-laws had lost their son, and they needed me as much as I needed them. I decided to stay strong, for all of us. The next day, I made cherry pie, my father-in-law's favorite. I made this for you. Let's eat it together, I said with a smile. Thank you, Ella. It smells amazing, he replied. From then on, we supported each other, living as a family while I continued searching for Daniel. I spoke to his colleagues, his friends, anyone who might know where he was. Then I discovered something shocking. $100,000 was missing from his bank account. The police suspected he had run away, but with no clear evidence of a crime, they stopped investigating. Years passed. My in-laws and I slowly adjusted, helping each other through life. But 7 years after Daniel vanished, tragedy struck. My father-in-law passed away after a long illness. At his funeral, as my mother-in-law and I cried, a familiar voice stopped us. Hello, I'm back. Hey, Ella, it's been a while. I turned, stunned. Daniel, where have you been? But he wasn't alone. Standing next to him was Charlotte, my sister. What? Why? What's going on? I stammered. Daniel looked completely unfazed. Well, I've been living with Charlotte, at your parents' house, he said casually. I froze in disbelief. Charlotte had stolen my husband. She'd even had his child. My parents had helped them, hiding Daniel from me all these years. Your dad passed away, so I came for the inheritance, Daniel said without shame. He had been living off his savings and my family's support for 7 years, and now he was back for money. Are you crazy? How selfish can you be? I yelled, trembling with anger alongside my mother-in-law. You don't know how much my father-in-law worried before he passed away. My voice cracked with fury. Daniel, unfazed, shrugged. At first, I tried to devote myself to you, Ella, but no matter what you did, you were so boring. It was no fun being with you. Yeah, Charlotte chimed in with a smirk. Ella, you're super boring, but I'm different. I've got the same face as you, but I actually know how to live. When I met Charlotte, everything changed, Daniel continued, his tone cold. She made me happy. I couldn't have kids with you, Ella, but we had a child together right away. Charlotte and I are meant to be together. My heart sank. Daniel was justifying his betrayal with the most selfish, hurtful reasoning. Charlotte, who had never worked a day in her life, had set her sights on Daniel the moment she realized at our wedding that he had a well-paying job. You thought you could just take whatever I had, didn't you? I spat at Charlotte, like you always used to, but this time, it's about money, isn't it? Charlotte crossed her arms, glaring at me. Whatever, Daniel just loves me more now. Anyway, he's the son, so he has the right to inherit the money. That's right, Daniel added. I deserve what's mine, so hand over the money. It was clear Charlotte had manipulated Daniel into coming here, demanding the inheritance. That's enough, it's not going to happen, my mother-in-law shouted, her face red with rage. Why not? It's my money, Daniel yelled. I don't care how many times you demand it. Go home, she snapped. Fuming, Daniel glared at us. I'll be back. You'd better have my money ready next time. With that, he stormed off with Charlotte. But they didn't stop there. A few days later, they started following me and my mother-in-law everywhere. Just give us the money already, Daniel demanded one day. I don't care. It was your father's money, my mother-in-law retorted. It's mine, I have a right to it, Daniel argued. Why should I give it to you? Now leave, I shouted, trying to keep calm. But no matter how many times we told them to stop, Daniel and Charlotte refused to give up. They kept pestering us, their demands growing louder and more desperate. I was just about to send them away when my mother-in-law stepped out from the back of the house. Are they here again? She asked, her voice heavy with annoyance. Yes, I replied. Charlotte, my sister, immediately turned her anger toward my mother-in-law, who was looking at them with disgust. Your son is begging, but you're just acting like a— My son is dead, my mother-in-law interrupted firmly. Huh? Both Daniel and Charlotte froze, speechless. There's a grave in the backyard, my mother-in-law added without flinching. What? No way, Daniel and Charlotte shouted in unison before rushing to the small cemetery in the woods behind the house. Sure enough, they found a gravestone with Daniel's name engraved on it. You see, he was declared dead after his disappearance, my mother-in-law explained, her voice cold and steady. Legally, after 7 years, a missing person can be declared dead. That's what we did. I inherited everything, and as far as the law is concerned, your marriage to Ella is already dissolved. Daniel stared at her in disbelief. But I'm alive. I'm standing right here. Exactly, he's alive, so he should get the money, right? Charlotte chimed in, panicking. My mother-in-law didn't even blink. Well, you're lucky, Daniel. I could have sued you for alimony when I found out about your affair, but since you're dead, I let it go. What, alimony? Charlotte stammered. Yes, my mother-in-law said, narrowing her eyes. If you two keep pestering us for money, I'll make sure the courts deal with you, and trust me, it won't end well for you. Hey, wait, I'm your son, it's my money, you can't do this, Daniel shouted, his voice cracking. My son is dead, she repeated coldly. You're his mother, you can see him standing right here, Charlotte whined. Then I suppose if my dead ex-husband were somehow alive, my mother-in-law said, her tone sharp, he'd owe Ella a lot of money in alimony for abandoning her and betraying his family. She let that sink in before continuing, but since he's dead, I guess we'll never get to that. Daniel's face fell, and Charlotte's bravado faded instantly. Fine, I get it, Daniel muttered. So, no money, my mother-in-law declared, now leave. Daniel and Charlotte tried to play the victim, pleading and arguing, but we didn't budge. The moment they heard the word alimony, they realized they'd lost. Later, my parents came to me, looking distressed. Clearly, they had heard the story from Charlotte. We're in serious trouble, Ella, my father said, his voice trembling. We have a lot of debts. Please, help us out. Yes, my mother added, we're still family, after all. Family? I snapped. You took away my husband and treated me terribly for years. Now you want my help? Forget it. I'm not giving you a single cent. My parents were stunned. No way. They had spent years spoiling Charlotte, pouring all their money into her and supporting her lavish lifestyle. Now they were paying the price. That's what happens when you let her take and take without limits. You've dug your own grave, I said bluntly. It turned out Daniel had been freeloading at my parents' house without working, relying on his savings. Meanwhile, Charlotte had spent recklessly, completely ignoring their financial situation. Raising a child on top of that only added to their expenses. Eventually, Daniel's savings ran out, and even with my parents' help, they were drowning in debt. What are we going to do? You need to fix this situation with the money. Oh, okay, I'll get a job then, Daniel said, frustrated. But since he was legally dead, he didn't have a family register, which meant he couldn't get a proper job. What now? We're drowning in debt, Charlotte complained. I didn't plan on having a second baby, she added. I never expected to get pregnant again either, but it's your problem now, you handle it. Charlotte's belly was huge, and their financial situation was getting worse by the day. I didn't care about the mess between my ex-husband and sister, I just wanted to move on. As for me, I was finally living a peaceful, Happy life with my mother-in-law. How about Paris? She asked one day. Paris? I responded, surprised. Yes, I've always wanted to visit Europe, she said. You said you wanted to see Buckingham Palace too. Why not take a trip to Europe? Really? That would be amazing. It feels like a dream come true. My mother-in-law is the only family who truly cares for me, and I'm grateful for that. I will take good care of her, and we'll continue supporting each other as a family.
I smoothed my dress for the 100th time, watching the city lights blur past our car window. 10 years of marriage, and tonight was supposed to be perfect. I'm Lana, and in exactly 47 minutes, my entire world would shatter into a million pieces. You seem nervous, Matthew said, his hand resting on my knee. The same hand that had held mine through countless moments, good and bad. The same hand that I would soon learn had been slowly strangling everything I held dear. Just excited, I replied, forcing a smile. It's not every day we celebrate our 10th anniversary. The restaurant was exactly what you'd expect for such a milestone. Crystal chandeliers, white tablecloths, and the soft murmur of expensive conversations. Matthew's family had already arrived, occupying the private room he'd reserved. His sister Susan rushed to embrace me, her perfume overwhelming. "The golden couple!" she exclaimed, pulling back to examine my face. "Lana, you look absolutely radiant." I noticed Emily, my 16-year-old daughter, sitting quietly in the corner. She seemed unusually tense, her fingers fidgeting with her napkin. When our eyes met, she quickly looked away. "Something wrong, sweetheart?" I asked, moving toward her. Before she could answer, Matthew clinked his glass, commanding everyone's attention. "I'd like to make a toast," he announced, his voice carrying that familiar authority that had first attracted me to him. The room fell silent. 10 years ago, I married this beautiful woman, he began, gesturing toward me, and tonight, I think it's time for some honesty. My stomach dropped. There was something in his tone, something cruel I'd never heard before. "Lana," he continued, "you've been a wonderful wife, but as they say, all good things must come to an end." The room grew impossibly quiet. I could hear my own heartbeat thundering in my ears. "I'm filing for divorce," he declared, his lips curving into what I can only describe as a smirk. "And I have an announcement that might explain why." He walked over to Emily, placing his hand on her shoulder. She flinched, but didn't move away. "Emily and I have fallen in love." The words hit me like a physical blow. Several gasps echoed around the room, followed by murmurs of shock. But then, to my horror, I watched as his family's expressions transformed from surprise to acceptance, even approval. Susan actually smiled, raising her glass. "To new beginnings." I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. The tension in her shoulders, the fear in her eyes. This wasn't love. This was predation. "Emily," I said softly, "come here, baby." She practically leaped from her chair, crossing the room to stand beside me. Her hand found mine, squeezing it tight. Matthew's smile faltered slightly. "Now, Lana, don't make this difficult. Emily and I—" "Stop talking." My voice was ice. "My 16-year-old daughter? Really, Matthew?" He straightened his tie, regaining his composure. "She's very mature for her age, and these things, well, they just happen." His family nodded in agreement, like this was all perfectly normal. Like my husband hadn't just announced his intentions toward my child. I felt Emily trembling beside me, and something inside me solidified. 10 years of suspicious business trips, of mysterious phone calls, of documents hastily hidden when I entered rooms, it all clicked into place. "Well," I said, my voice steady despite the rage burning through my veins, "I suppose I should thank you for making this so public." Confusion flickered across his face. I smiled, the kind of smile that promises war. "See you in court, Matthew." His smug expression wavered. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means," I replied, gathering my purse and wrapping an arm around Emily, "that you really should have checked what your stepdaughter was doing when she was helping in your home office all these years." The color drained from his face as Emily and I walked toward the door. Behind us, I heard Susan's sharp intake of breath and Matthew's chair scraping against the floor. "Lana, wait." But we were already gone, stepping into the cool night air. Emily's hand was still in mine, steady now. "Mom," she whispered, "I have everything. Everything he did, everything he said. All of it." I pulled her close, kissing the top of her head. "I know, baby, I know." I'd raised a smart girl after all. While Matthew had been plotting his sick little game, we'd been building a case that would destroy him. As we climbed into a taxi, I caught a glimpse of Matthew through the restaurant window, his face contorted with rage. He thought he had all the power, but he'd forgotten one crucial thing: never underestimate a mother protecting her child. The game was just beginning, and I intended to win. The morning after the anniversary disaster, I sat across from Royal Ramirez in his corner office, watching him flip through the files Emily and I had compiled over the past year. "This is..." He paused, adjusting his glasses. "Remarkable, Lana. How long have you suspected?" "The embezzlement? About 2 years," I replied, reaching for my coffee. But I needed proof. That's where Emily came in. Royal spread several documents across his desk. Bank statements, emails, and photographs created a paper trail of Matthew's corruption. "And your daughter gathered all this?" "He never saw her as a threat," I said, bitter smile playing on my lips. Just his young, naive stepdaughter who loved helping in his office, the perfect cover. A knock at the door interrupted us. Emily entered, clutching her laptop. Dark circles under her eyes suggested she hadn't slept much. "I found more," she announced, setting the computer down. "Remember those weekend trips he took to the Cayman Islands?" Royal leaned forward. "Show me." Emily pulled up a series of encrypted emails. "He's been moving money through shell companies, lots of it, and look who helps manage the accounts." "Susan," I breathed, recognizing the name on the documents. His own sister. "There's something else," Emily said, her voice shaking slightly. She pulled out her phone and played an audio recording. Matthew's voice filled the room. "Once the divorce is final, we'll transfer everything offshore. Lana won't see a penny. And Emily, sweetheart, we can finally be together." My stomach churned at his sickening tone. Emily's hand trembled as she stopped the recording. "He started suggesting things about 6 months ago," she explained, not meeting my eyes. I played along, pretending to be flattered. It made him careless. He'd leave his office unlocked, his computer logged in. I reached across the desk and grabbed her hand. "I'm so sorry you had to do that, baby." "Don't be," she said firmly. "He deserves everything that's coming to him." Royal cleared his throat. "This is excellent work, but we need more. Specifically about the offshore accounts. Do you have any contacts inside his company?" "Actually," I said, pulling out my phone, "I might know someone. Jarrett Cox. Matthew fired him last year when he started asking too many questions about the company's finances." I dialed Jarrett's number, putting him on speaker. "Lana?" His voice crackled through. "I heard about what happened at the restaurant. Are you okay?" "I'm better than okay, Jarrett. I'm with my lawyer and we need your help. Remember those irregularities you found in the Asian market investments?" "You mean the ones that got me fired?" "Yeah, I kept copies of everything. Matthew thought he'd destroyed all the evidence, but I'm not an idiot." Royal interjected. "Mr. Cox, would you be willing to testify?" "Against Matthew? In a heartbeat. That bastard destroyed my career. I'll bring you everything I have tomorrow morning." After ending the call, Royal sat back, a satisfied look on his face. "With Jarrett's evidence added to what you already have, we can nail him on multiple counts of fraud, embezzlement, and..." He glanced at Emily. "Other charges." My phone buzzed. A text from Susan. "We need to talk. Coffee, just us girls." I showed it to Royal, who nodded slowly. "Meter, wear this." He pulled a small recording device from his desk drawer. "We need to know what she knows." As Emily and I left Royal's office, she suddenly stopped in the hallway. "Mom, what if it's not enough? What if he still wins?" I turned to face her, seeing not just my brave daughter who'd helped gather evidence, but also the scared girl who'd been manipulated by a predator. "Listen to me," I said, holding her shoulders. "Matthew thinks he's untouchable because he's always gotten away with everything. But he made 2 fatal mistakes. He underestimated you, and he forgot that I've been watching him for years. We have the evidence, we have the witnesses, and most importantly, we have the truth." She nodded, straightening her spine. "When are you meeting Susan?" "In an hour," I replied, checking my phone. "At that pretentious cafe she loves." "Be careful," Emily warned. "She's almost as bad as he is." I hugged her tight, breathing in the familiar scent of her shampoo. Don't worry, Susan thinks she's coming to negotiate. She doesn't realize she's walking into a trap. As we headed to the elevator, I felt a surge of determination. Matthew had spent years building his house of cards, thinking himself invincible. Now, piece by piece, we would watch it fall, and I would make sure he felt every single moment of it. The cafe was busy when I arrived, but I spotted Susan immediately, perched at a corner table like a vulture waiting for its prey. The recording device felt heavy against my ribs. "Lana, darling," she cooed, rising to air-kiss my cheek. "I took the liberty of ordering your usual vanilla latte." "How thoughtful," I replied, sliding into my seat, though I switched to black coffee months ago, less sugar. Her perfectly painted smile flickered. "Of course, my mistake. Like the mistake of helping your brother hide millions in offshore accounts?" The coffee cup froze halfway to her lips. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Grand Cayman Bank, account number 84793. I started reciting, watching her face pale. Should I continue? She set her cup down carefully, manicured nails clicking against the porcelain. "What do you want?" "The truth would be nice, starting with how long you've known about Matthew's plans for my daughter." Susan leaned forward, dropping her voice. "Listen, Lana, Emily is practically a woman now. These things happen. If you fight this, you'll lose everything. Matthew has connections." "Like Judge Harrison," I interrupted. "The one he's been bribing?" Another crack in her composure. "These are dangerous accusations." "No, Susan, these are facts. Facts I can prove." The door chimed and Jarrett walked in, right on schedule. He nodded at me before taking a seat at the adjacent table, close enough to hear everything. Susan's eyes darted between us. "Who is that?" "Just another piece of the puzzle you and Matthew didn't clean up properly." Her voice turned sharp. "Are you threatening me?" "I'm giving you a chance," I corrected. "One chance to do the right thing before everything comes crashing down." She laughed, but it sounded hollow. "You really think you can take on Matthew? He'll destroy you." "Like he destroyed Jarrett?" I gestured to the next table. "Tell her what happened, Jarrett." He turned in his chair. "Hello, Susan. Remember me? The accountant your brother fired for finding his money laundering scheme?" The color drained from her face. "That was a misunderstanding." "The SEC doesn't think so," Jarrett cut in. "They were very interested in the documents I saved." Susan's hand shook as she reached for her purse. "This conversation is over." "One more thing," I said, pulling out my phone. "Emily wanted me to play something for you." I hit play on one of the recordings. Matthew's voice filled our corner of the cafe. "Susan's handling the transfers. Once you're 18, Emily, we'll have everything set up. A new life. Just us." "Stop," Susan whispered, looking sick. "Just stop." That's what Emily wanted to say, too. Multiple times. But your brother wouldn't listen. She stood abruptly, knocking her coffee over. "You don't understand. He'll come after all of us." "No, Susan, we're coming after him. The only question is, which side of the courtroom do you want to be on?" As she hurried out, Jarrett moved to my table. "Think she'll flip?" "She's scared," I said, watching her through the window as she practically ran to her car. And scared people make mistakes. My phone buzzed. A text from Emily. "Mom, come home now. Found something huge in his private email." "I have to go," I told Jarrett. "Meet us at Royal's office tomorrow morning?" He nodded. "I'll bring everything I have. And Lana, be careful. Matthew's not going to take this lying down." I drove home quickly, finding Emily at the dining room table, her laptop open and her face pale. "Look at this," she said, turning the screen toward me. The email was dated 3 months ago, sent to a private account in Switzerland. My heart stopped as I read the contents. Details of a plan so elaborate, so cruel, it took my breath away. "He was never going to let us go," Emily whispered. "He was going to—" "I know, baby." I pulled her close, my mind racing. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was about survival. My phone rang, Royal's number flashing on the screen. "Lana," he said without preamble, "we need to move fast. Matthew just called an emergency board meeting for tomorrow morning." "He's going to try to liquidate everything," I realized. "Exactly. Whatever you and Emily found, bring it now. We're filing for an emergency injunction tonight." I looked at my daughter, saw the determination in her eyes matching my own. We'll be there in 20 minutes. As we gathered our evidence, I couldn't help but think about Susan's warning. Matthew would come after us with everything he had. But what he didn't know was that we were ready. More than ready. The war was about to begin, and we had just found our nuclear option. The courtroom buzzed with tension as Matthew strutted in, flanked by 3 expensive lawyers. His confident smirk faltered when he saw Jarrett sitting behind our table, manila folders stacked neatly in front of him. "All rise," the bailiff called as Judge Martinez entered, not Judge Harrison, as Matthew had expected. His legal team exchanged worried glances. "Your Honor," Royal began, standing, "we're here seeking an emergency injunction against Mr. Elliott's attempts to liquidate company assets, and we have evidence of extensive financial fraud." Matthew's lead lawyer jumped up. "Objection, Your Honor. These are baseless accusations from a vindictive soon-to-be ex-wife." "Baseless?" Royal raised an eyebrow. "Let's start with Exhibit A." He projected the first document onto the courtroom screen, a series of wire transfers to the Cayman Islands. Matthew's face tightened. "These transfers," Royal continued, "total over $12 million in the past 18 months alone, money that mysteriously disappeared from company accounts. Business investments," Matthew's lawyer argued, "completely legitimate." "Really?" Royal clicked to the next slide. "Then perhaps you can explain why they were routed through shell companies owned by Mr. Elliott's sister." A murmur rippled through the courtroom. I noticed Susan, sitting in the back, shift uncomfortably in her seat. "Furthermore," Royal pressed on, "we have testimony from a former employee regarding these transactions." Jarrett stood, walking to the witness stand. As he was sworn in, I saw Matthew's knuckles turn white as he gripped the table. "Mr. Cox," Royal began, "please tell the court about what you discovered last year." "I was the senior accountant," Jarrett testified. "I found discrepancies in the Asian market accounts, large sums being diverted through a series of shell companies. When I brought this to Mr. Elliott's attention, he fired me and threatened to destroy my career if I spoke up." Matthew leaned forward, whispering furiously to his lawyers. One of them stood. "Your Honor, this is clearly a disgruntled ex-employee seeking revenge." "I have the original documents," Jarrett interrupted, "with Mr. Elliott's signature authorizing each illegal transfer, and emails discussing how to hide them from the board and shareholders." The judge leaned forward. "I'd like to see those documents." As the evidence was presented, I watched Matthew's composure crack. His eyes darted around the room, finally landing on Emily in the gallery. The predatory look that crossed his face made my blood boil. "Your Honor," Royal said, "we have one more witness, Emily." Matthew's lawyer shot to his feet. "Objection, she's a minor." "A minor," Royal countered, "who Mr. Elliott has claimed he intends to marry. I believe her testimony is highly relevant." The judge nodded. "Proceed." Emily walked to the stand, her head high. She looked directly at Matthew as she was sworn in. "Emily," Royal began gently, "can you tell us about the documents you found in Mr. Elliott's home office?" "Objection," Matthew's lawyer shouted. "Any documents obtained without consent were in plain sight," Emily cut in. "On the computer I was explicitly given access to for homework help." The judge overruled the objection. Emily pulled out her phone. "I also recorded conversations," she continued, "like this one from last month." Matthew's voice filled the courtroom. "Once we get rid of your mother, we'll have everything. The money's already moved. She'll never find it." The recording continued, becoming increasingly inappropriate. Several jurors looked disgusted. Susan quietly stood and slipped out of the courtroom. "Your Honor," Royal said, "we have extensive evidence of financial crimes, attempted fraud, and inappropriate conduct with a minor. We ask that all company assets be frozen immediately." The judge studied Matthew, who was now visibly sweating. "Mr. Elliott, would you like to address these allegations?" Matthew stood, straightening his tie. "Your Honor, this is all a misunderstanding. I can explain—" "Save it for the criminal trial," the judge cut in. "I'm granting the emergency injunction. All assets are frozen pending full investigation. And Mr. Elliott," she added, her voice steel, "I'm issuing a restraining order. You are to have no contact with Emily or her mother." As the gavel fell, Matthew lunged toward our table. "You lying little—" 2 court officers grabbed him before he could finish. Emily didn't flinch, staring him down as he was pulled away. Outside the courtroom, Royal smiled. "This is just the beginning. The criminal charges will be filed tomorrow." I hugged Emily close, watching Matthew being led away in handcuffs, his perfect world crumbling around him. But something in his eyes, a dangerous glint of desperation, told me this wasn't over. He still has something planned, Emily whispered, seeing it too. Let him try, I replied. We're ready. The criminal trial began 3 weeks later. I sat in the front row, watching Matthew's mask of confidence slip further with each new piece of evidence. His expensive suit couldn't hide the toll of jail time. He'd lost weight and dark circles shadowed his eyes. The prosecution calls Susan May to the stand. The district attorney announced. Matthew's head snapped up as his sister walked to the witness box. She wouldn't meet his eyes. Ms. May, the DA began, please tell the court about the offshore accounts you managed for your brother. Susan gripped the stand, her voice shaking. I helped Matthew move money through various shell companies. It started small, but over time... Objection, Matthew's lawyer interrupted. This witness was not offered immunity. Actually, the DA countered, Ms. May has entered into a cooperation agreement with the state. Matthew slammed his fist on the table. You treacherous bitch. Order. The judge's gavel cracked. Mr. Elliott, control yourself or you'll be removed. Susan continued, detailing years of financial manipulation. She described elaborate schemes to hide money, fake investments, and forged documents. With each revelation, Matthew's face grew darker. And what did your brother tell you about his plans regarding his stepdaughter? Susan dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. He said he'd been grooming her for months, that once she turned 18, they would disappear with the money. He laughed about it. The jury's disgust was palpable. One woman actually glared at Matthew, who was now whispering frantically to his lawyer. Next, the prosecution played Emily's videos. The courtroom watched in silence as Matthew appeared on screen, making inappropriate advances, discussing their future together, all while Emily pretended to be flattered while secretly recording everything. Your Honor, Matthew's lawyer stood. These videos were obtained without my client's consent. In a single-party consent state, the DA interrupted. Perfectly legal, as you well know. During a brief recess, Royal pulled me aside. Something's wrong. Matthew's too calm. What do you mean? He's got an ace up his sleeve. Watch Susan, she keeps checking her phone. Back in session, Matthew's defense began their case. His lawyer called a surprise witness, James Turner, the company's IT director. Mr. Turner, the lawyer began, what did you find when examining Ms. Emily's computer? Objection, Royal shot up. This witness wasn't on the list. Late discovery, Your Honor. Critical evidence came to light this morning. The judge allowed it. My stomach tightened as Turner testified. I found evidence of hacking, he claimed. Someone used that computer to illegally access company servers, plant false documents, and manipulate financial records. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Emily grabbed my hand, her face pale. He's lying, she whispered. I never... Royal stood. Your Honor, may I cross-examine? Proceed. Mr. Turner, when did you perform this analysis? This morning. And who ordered it? Ms. May. Royal smiled. The same Ms. May who just testified about her role in the fraud? The same Ms. May who's been sending text messages throughout these proceedings? Turner shifted uncomfortably. Your Honor, Royal continued, I'd like to enter into evidence these messages, obtained through Ms. May's cooperation agreement. He projected a series of texts onto the screen. Messages between Susan and Turner, planning this false testimony. Messages with Matthew, orchestrating one final attempt to discredit Emily. Furthermore, Royal added, we have Mr. Turner's banking records showing a $100,000 deposit made this morning from one of the known shell companies. Turner's face crumpled. Matthew leaped up, pointing at Susan. You promised you deleted those messages. The judge's gavel cracked like thunder. Bailiff, remove Mr. Elliott. As Matthew was dragged out shouting, Turner broke down on the stand. He made me do it, he sobbed. He said he'd ruin me if I didn't testify. The DA stood. Your Honor, the state moves to add witness tampering and obstruction of justice to the charges. By day's end, Turner had joined Susan in making a deal with prosecutors. Matthew's last desperate play had backfired spectacularly. Outside the courthouse, Royal looked satisfied. That's the last card he had to play. Tomorrow we present the final evidence. Emily hugged me tight. Is it really almost over? Almost, I promised, watching Susan hurry to her car. She looked haunted, destroyed by her own brother's manipulation. That night, as Emily and I sat in our secured apartment, Royal's insistence after the death threats started, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You think you've won? Watch the morning news. Some things can't be undone." I showed it to Emily, who immediately called Royal. "Don't worry," he said after I read him the message. "The police are monitoring everything. He's just trying to scare you." But as I looked at my daughter's worried face, I couldn't shake the feeling that Matthew had one final devastating move planned. The morning news hit like a bomb. I watched in horror as the anchor reported, "Breaking news. Massive data breach at Elliott Corp. Reveals thousands of compromised customer accounts. Sources say sensitive information was leaked by an inside source." My phone exploded with messages. Royals came first. "Turn on your TV, now." Emily burst into my room, laptop in hand. "Mom, they're trying to pin this on me. Look." She showed me social media posts already spreading like wildfire, claiming she had orchestrated the breach using her access to Matthew's computers. His supporters were calling for her arrest. "Get dressed," I ordered. "We're meeting Royal." As we rushed to the car, Jarrett called. "Lana, I know what Matthew did. The breach came from an external server in Russia, but he's manipulated the logs to point to Emily's laptop." "Can you prove it?" "Already working on it. But there's more. He's emptied the corporate pension fund. Thousands of employees just lost everything." My hands tightened on the steering wheel. "He's burning it all down." Royal's office was chaos when we arrived. Phones ringing nonstop, reporters camping in the lobby. He ushered us into a private conference room where Susan waited, looking terrified. "He's gone completely insane," she blurted out. "He called me last night, laughing about his scorched earth plan. Said if he's going down, he's taking everyone with him." "Where is he now?" Royal demanded. "Under house arrest at his penthouse," she replied. "But he's got people helping him, loyal employees who still believe in him." Emily opened her laptop. "Look what I found in his cloud backup." She played a video of Matthew, recorded recently in his penthouse. He stared into the camera, smirking. "By now you've seen the news," he said. "Poor Emily, such a troubled girl, hacking her stepfather's company. But that's just the beginning. Every hour more data will leak, more accounts compromised, and there's nothing you can do to stop it." "Actually," Jarrett said from the doorway, making us jump, "there is." He walked in, holding up a flash drive. "Remember that IT director who lied on the stand? He gave me access to the backup servers. I've got proof the breach came from Russia and—" He smiled grimly, evidence that Matthew ordered it himself. Royal grabbed his phone. "I'm calling the DA. We need to move fast." Suddenly, Emily gasped. "The offshore accounts, they're being drained right now. Look." Her screen showed real-time transfers emptying the hidden accounts we'd frozen, millions disappearing by the second. "That's impossible," Susan whispered. "Those accounts were locked." "Unless someone with authorization unfroze them," I realized, staring at her. "Someone like you." She backed away, reaching for her purse. "I had no choice. He threatened my children." Royal blocked the door. "Susan, don't make this worse." "You don't understand," she sobbed. "He's got everything planned. The data breach, the pension fund, the accounts. It's all a distraction. His real target is—" She looked at Emily, horror in her eyes. My blood ran cold. What did he plan for Emily? Before she could answer, Jarrett's laptop pinged. "Someone's accessing the company's private jet records. A flight plan was just filed for tonight. Destination, Dubai." "No extradition," Royal muttered. My phone buzzed. A text from Matthew. Should have kept her away from computers. Too late now. Emily's laptop suddenly went black, then displayed a message. "Access granted. Download complete." "He's in my computer," she cried. "Everything's being wiped." Jarrett jumped into action, fingers flying over his keyboard. He's not just wiping it, he's planting evidence, making it look like Emily orchestrated everything. "Call the police," Royal ordered, already dialing. "We need officers at his penthouse now." But Susan was shaking her head. "He's not there. The house arrest ankle monitor? He switched it hours ago. He's already gone." My phone buzzed again. "Coming for what's mine. Say goodbye to Emily." The room erupted into action. Royal calling in favors, Jarrett tracing digital footprints, Susan finally breaking down and revealing more of the plan. But all I could focus on was Emily, my brave, brilliant daughter who had risked everything to expose this monster. Now he was trying to destroy her completely. "Mom," she said quietly, taking my hand. "I'm scared." "Listen to me," I replied, steel in my voice. "He thinks he's won, thinks he's destroyed everything, but he forgot the most important thing." "What's that?" I pulled out my own flash drive, the one I'd never told anyone about. "I keep copies of everything, and I mean everything." For the first time that morning, Royal smiled. "The hunter becomes the hunted." "Exactly," I said, plugging in the drive. "Time to end this, once and for all." "Got him," Jarrett shouted, his laptop screen lighting up with coordinates. "He's at the private airfield outside the city." Royal was already on the phone with the DA. "We need that arrest warrant now. He's attempting to flee the country." I grabbed Emily's hand. "Stay here with Jarrett. Susan, you're coming with me." "What? No, I can't." "You can and you will." I cut her off. "Your brother needs to see your face when it all falls apart." Police sirens wailed as we raced to the airfield, Susan trembling in the passenger seat. 3 patrol cars flanked us, lights flashing. My phone was on speaker, connected to Jarrett and Emily. "The jet's fueled and ready," Jarrett reported. "But I've locked down the flight controls remotely. He's not going anywhere." We screeched to a halt at the airfield gates. Through the chain-link fence, I could see Matthew's private jet, its engines humming. A familiar figure was climbing the stairs. "He's boarding," Susan cried. "No," I smiled. "He's trapped." The police burst through the gates, cars surrounding the jet. Officers poured out, weapons drawn. "Matthew Elliott," a voice boomed over a megaphone. "We have a warrant for your arrest. Exit the aircraft with your hands up." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the jet's door opened, and Matthew appeared, still wearing his expensive suit, but now disheveled and wild-eyed. "You're too late," he shouted. "The money's gone, all of it, and Emily's reputation is destroyed." I stepped forward, holding up my flash drive. "You mean this money?" His face contorted. "What?" "While you were busy planning your grand escape, I was tracking every transfer, every account, every fake transaction. It's all here, and it's already been sent to the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit." "You're bluffing," he snarled, but uncertainty crept into his voice. "Tell him, Susan." His sister stepped forward, her voice shaking but clear. "The offshore accounts? I never actually unfroze them. Those transfers you saw? All fake. We were tracking where you tried to send the money." Matthew's face went from red to white. "You betrayed me?" "No, brother. You betrayed yourself." My phone crackled. "Mom," Emily's voice rang out. "We've recovered everything from my laptop. Jarrett found proof the Russian hackers were hired directly by Matthew. We have the payment records." Matthew lunged down the stairs, but police officers tackled him before he could reach us. As they handcuffed him, he thrashed and screamed, "You think this is over? I still have friends, powerful friends." "Actually," Royal said, walking up with his phone out, "you don't. The board of directors just voted unanimously to remove you and cooperate fully with authorities. They're quite interested in keeping themselves out of prison." "The pension fund," Matthew started. "Already recovered," I interrupted. "You really should have changed your private banking passwords, dear. 10 years of marriage and you still used our anniversary date." His face crumpled as reality set in. Everything he'd built, every scheme he'd planned, was falling apart. "Take him away," Royal nodded to the officers. "And make sure he knows. Attempt to contact Emily again, and we'll add witness intimidation to the charges." As they led him to a police car, Matthew looked back at his sister. "Susan, tell them you helped me." "I did," she replied calmly. "I told them everything. That's why I'm out here and not in handcuffs with you." The police car door slammed, and just like that, it was over. 10 years of manipulation, fraud, and betrayal ended in minutes. My phone buzzed with a text from Emily. "Is it safe to come out now?" "All clear, baby. We did it." She arrived minutes later with Jarrett. As we watched Matthew's jet being searched by federal agents, Emily hugged me tight. "They found 3 fake passports and offshore banking documents in the jet," Jarrett reported. "He was planning to disappear completely." Royal cleared his throat. "The DA wants to meet first thing tomorrow. With the new evidence, Matthew's looking at 20 years minimum, the federal charges alone." "What about the company?" Susan asked quietly. The board's appointing an interim CEO, Royal replied, and they're very interested in making things right with all the employees. I looked at my daughter, seeing the weight lift from her shoulders. Ready to go home? She nodded, then turned to Susan. Thank you for helping at the end. Susan wiped away tears. I'm so sorry. For everything. As we drove home, Emily finally smiled. Mom, think we can take a vacation? Somewhere far away from all this? Absolutely, I replied, watching the police cars disappear into the distance with Matthew. But first, we have a court date tomorrow. One last time to watch him face justice. Good, she said firmly. I want to see his face when they read the verdict. So did I. After all, karma was finally catching up to Matthew Elliott, and I wouldn't miss it for the world. The courtroom fell silent as the jury foreman stood. I gripped Emily's hand as we waited for the moment we'd fought so hard to reach. On the count of financial fraud in the first degree, we find the defendant guilty. Matthew's shoulders slumped. On the count of embezzlement, we find the defendant guilty. His lawyers shuffled their papers nervously. On the count of attempted exploitation of a minor, Emily squeezed my hand tighter. Guilty. The list continued, each guilty verdict another nail in the coffin of Matthew's empire. When the foreman finished, the judge cleared her throat. Mr. Elliott, please rise. Matthew stood, his designer suit hanging loose on his frame, his arrogance finally shattered. You have been found guilty of serious crimes against not only your company and its employees, but against your own family. Your attempts to manipulate and exploit your stepdaughter show a particular moral bankruptcy that this court finds reprehensible. She paused, looking directly at him. I sentence you to 25 years in federal prison. Additionally, you are ordered to pay full restitution to the pension fund and affected employees. Your assets will be seized and liquidated to satisfy these obligations. The gavel cracked, and Matthew's legs gave out. As officers led him away, he looked back one last time. Emily, he called out weakly, I'm sorry. Save it, she cut him off, standing tall. I'm not your victim anymore. I'm the one who took you down. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us. Royal stepped forward, handling the press while Jarrett brought our car around. Mom, Emily said, tugging my sleeve. Look. Susan stood at the bottom of the courthouse steps, clutching a thick envelope. Before they take everything, she said, holding it out, I wanted you to have this. It's the deed to the beach house in Maine. I bought it with my own money, before everything. It's yours now. I started to protest, but she shook her head. Please, let me do one right thing. You and Emily deserve a fresh start. Emily took the envelope. Thank you, Aunt Susan. The board meeting went well, Jarrett announced, joining us. They're implementing all new oversight procedures, and he grinned at me. They want you to join the ethics committee, Lana. I laughed. After all this, I think I'm done with corporate life. Actually, Emily said, pulling up something on her phone, I have a better idea. Remember that small tech security firm that helped us trace Matthew's hackers? They're looking for partners. She showed me the proposal she'd drafted. A new company focused on protecting others from the kind of fraud and manipulation we'd experienced, using our story to make a difference. I already ran the numbers, Jarrett added. With my technical experience and your insight into corporate fraud, we could help people, Emily finished. Stop other Matthews before they destroy more families. Royal emerged from the press crowd. Whatever you decide, the civil suits are settled. The company's insurance will cover the pension fund, and the asset liquidation should handle the rest. What about the employees? I asked. Already taken care of. The board approved emergency bonuses to offset any hardship, and they're implementing that whistleblower protection program Emily designed. My daughter blushed. It just made sense. No one should be afraid to speak up. Susan cleared her throat. I should go. My flight to Seattle leaves soon. Fresh start? I asked. She nodded. Teaching high school math, about as far from corporate finance as I can get. As she walked away, Emily pulled out the beach house keys. So, Maine? I looked at my daughter, seeing not the scared girl from that anniversary dinner, but a strong young woman who'd faced down evil and won. Maine, I agreed. But first, I want to hear more about this security firm idea. Already got the perfect name, She grinned. Phoenix Securities, because we help people rise from the ashes. Jarrett raised an eyebrow. I'm in if you are. I hugged Emily close, breathing in the fresh air of freedom. Behind us, the courthouse stood as a symbol of justice served. Ahead, the future stretched bright and clear. Phoenix Securities it is, I decided, but we're still taking that vacation first. Emily laughed, the sound pure and unburdened. Deal, race you to the car. As I watched her run ahead, I felt the last weight lift from my shoulders. Matthew had tried to destroy us, but instead we'd emerged stronger, not as victims, but as survivors, as warriors. And somewhere in a prison cell, Matthew would have plenty of time to think about the women he'd underestimated, the family he'd betrayed, and the justice we'd fought so hard to win. We were finally, truly free. The eviction notice trembled in my hands as I stared at my husband's signature scrawled across the bottom. Not a copy, his actual signature in blue ink, as casual as if he were signing a birthday card. My house keys didn't work anymore. The locks had been changed. I'm Holly, and this was how I discovered my husband of 8 years had sold our home without telling me. Gordon? I called out, my voice echoing through our, no, not our anymore, front porch. The spare key under the potted plant was gone too. Through the window, I could see my suitcase sitting in the middle of the empty living room floor. My phone buzzed. A text from Gordon. Had to make an executive decision, honey. Market was too good to pass up. Your things are packed. The new owners move in next week. I read it 3 times, each time feeling the rage build higher in my chest. Executive decision? Like I was some employee he could steamroll? With shaking fingers, I called my sister Annabelle. Come get me, I managed to say when she answered. Gordon sold the house. He what? Annabelle's voice shot up an octave. Without telling you? There's an eviction notice. My suitcase is inside. I can't even get to it. I'm coming right now. Don't move. 20 minutes later, Annabelle's beat-up Subaru pulled into the driveway. Her partner Maya was with her, thank God. While Annabelle hugged me, Maya, who worked as a locksmith, assessed the new locks. Standard deadbolt, Maya said. Give me 5 minutes. Is this even legal? Annabelle asked, still holding me. Does it matter? He did it anyway. I wiped my eyes, refusing to cry. 8 years, Belle. 8 years, and he doesn't even have the decency to discuss it with me? Maya had the door open in 3 minutes flat. The house echoed emptily as we stepped inside. Most of the furniture was gone. My suitcase sat in the middle of the floor like a sacrifice with a note taped to it. Honey, I read aloud, I know you'll be upset, but this is for the best. The market's hot and we made a killing. I've moved most of our things to storage. Take what you need for now. We'll talk tonight. Love, G. For the best? Annabelle snatched the note from my hands. The audacity of this man. I opened the suitcase. He'd packed some of my clothes. All wrong, of course. No underwear, no toiletries, just random dresses and pants thrown together. You're staying with us, Maya said firmly. No discussion. My phone buzzed again. Gordon, don't be dramatic about this. It's just business. Just business, I repeated, showing them the text. Our home is just business. Call Camila, Annabelle suggested, referring to my best friend. She works in real estate. She'll know if this is even legal. I nodded, but before I could dial, another text came through. This one from Xavier, Gordon's childhood friend. Hey Holly, Gordon told me about the house. Great deal, right? You must be thrilled. That's when it hit me. Xavier knew before I did. Gordon had told his friend about selling our house, but hadn't bothered to tell his own wife. I need to get some things, I said, heading upstairs. The master bedroom was stripped bare except for a few boxes labeled Holly's stuff in Gordon's hasty scrawl. As I grabbed what I actually needed, I found our wedding photo still hanging on the wall. Gordon's smile looked different now. Not loving, but smug. Like he'd won something. Found this in the kitchen, Maya called up. She appeared in the doorway holding a stack of papers. Looks like closing documents. They're dated 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks. He'd been sitting on this for 3 weeks, watching me water the garden, paint the guest room, plan our future in a house he'd already sold. Holly, Annabelle said softly, what are you going to do? I took one last look at our wedding photo, then carefully took it off the wall. The frame came apart easily in my hands. Behind our smiling faces, I found what I was looking for, a USB drive Gordon thought I didn't know about. He'd hidden it there 2 years ago, thinking he was so clever. First, I said, pocketing the drive, I'm going to call Camila, then I'm calling Turner. Turner? The lawyer? Annabelle raised an eyebrow. Gordon wants to talk business? I grabbed my properly packed bag and headed for the door. Let's talk business. As we pulled away from the house, my phone buzzed one final time. Gordon again. Don't forget, dinner at 7. We'll discuss the new arrangement. I turned off my phone. Gordon had no idea what kind of arrangement was coming. He's been siphoning money for months, Camila said, scrolling through my banking app. We sat at her kitchen table, laptops open and papers spread everywhere. Look at these transfers. Small amounts, but frequent. Always just under 5,000 to avoid flags. My hands clenched around my coffee mug. Where was it going? An account I can't access. She pointed to a recurring transfer label. But whatever BGI Holdings is, it's been getting regular payments since January. 3 hours had passed since I'd left my former home. Annabelle and Maya had dropped me at Camila's, knowing she'd know exactly what to do. They weren't wrong. My phone, now turned back on, showed 15 missed calls from Gordon. I ignored them all. Turner will be here in 20 minutes, Camila said, checking her watch. He's bringing the property records. I still can't believe Gordon knew Xavier knew before me, I said, pulling up the text messages. They were probably laughing about it. Camila's face darkened. Speaking of Xavier, she turned her laptop toward me. Look who owns BGI Holdings. There it was, Xavier's name, clear as day, listed as the primary owner. My phone buzzed again. Gordon, where are you? We need to talk about this like adults. Like adults? I scoffed. Where was this adult conversation when he was selling our house? The doorbell rang. Turner arrived with a briefcase and a grim expression. Holly, he said, sitting down, I've reviewed the sale documents. There's good news and bad news. Bad news first, I said. The sale is legal. Gordon had the right to sell because the house was only in his name. What? I nearly knocked over my coffee. That's impossible. We bought it together. Check your closing documents from the purchase, Turner said. I pulled out the USB drive I'd taken from behind our wedding photo. Gordon wasn't the only one who could be clever. I'd been making copies of important documents for years, just in case. As I scrolled through the files, my stomach dropped. The deed only listed Gordon as the owner. But I paid half the down payment, I said. I have proof. It's right here. I pulled up the transfer records. That's the good news, Turner said, leaning forward. You've maintained excellent records. Every contribution you've made is documented. That gives us leverage. Leverage for what? A lawsuit, Camila cut in. He sold your home without consent while taking your money under false pretenses. My phone buzzed yet again. This time it was Xavier. Gordon's worried sick. Just come home and work this out. Home? I laughed bitterly. What home? Turner pulled out more papers. There's something else you should see. The sale price of your house. It's well below market value, almost suspiciously so. Camila grabbed the papers. He sold a $750,000 house for $600,000 in this market? That makes no sense unless there's something we're not seeing, Turner finished. I remembered the USB drive. Wait, I dug deeper into the files, finding a folder labeled Taxes 2022. Look at this, an LLC Gordon created last year, and look who else is on it. Xavier's name appeared again, along with 3 other names I didn't recognize. Call up the property records for that buyer, Camila said suddenly. The one who bought your house. Turner typed quickly on his laptop. The buyer is Riverview Properties LLC, registered 6 months ago. Check the owners, I said, already knowing what we'd find. Sure enough, Riverview Properties LLC was owned by the same people in Gordon's LLC. They're flipping it, Camila said, her real estate experience kicking in. Buy low through a shell company, renovate, sell high. The profit stays hidden in the LLC, away from me, I finished, in case of divorce. My phone buzzed one last time. Gordon. This silent treatment is childish. I'm trying to build a future for us. I stood up, a strange calm settling over me. Turner, what exactly do you need to build a case? Bank records, proof of contribution, evidence of deliberate deception? He gestured at the spread of documents before us, which you seem to have in spades. And how long should I wait to respond to Gordon? Camila and Turner exchanged looks. Give me 48 hours, Turner said. Don't tell him anything. Don't meet him. Don't respond. Let him think you're too emotional to think straight. I nodded, picking up my phone. One last message appeared, from Maya. Remember, the best revenge isn't served hot or cold. It's served when they least expect it. I turned my phone off again and looked at Turner. Let's talk about what happens next. Every deposit, every transfer, every contribution you've made to joint expenses, Turner said, organizing files on his desk. It's all here, going back 10 years. I had spent the last 2 days holed up in Turner's office, piecing together my financial history. Camila sat beside me, taking notes and highlighting patterns we'd found. Look at this, Camila pointed to a spreadsheet. You paid for the kitchen renovation last year, $40,000 from your inheritance, which mysteriously increased the house's value by $90,000, Turner added. Money that Gordon and his friends will now pocket. My phone lit up with another message from Gordon. 3 days of silence. Real mature, Holly. I'm starting to lose my patience. He's getting nervous, Camila observed. Good. A knock at the door interrupted us. Maya walked in, carrying a stack of papers. You were right about the renovation company, she said, dropping the documents on Turner's desk. It's owned by one of the LLC partners. They've been flipping houses all over town using the same scheme. I flipped through the papers. These are all recent sales? Last 18 months, Maya confirmed. They buy low through shell companies, renovate using their own company, then sell high through different shells. The profits never touch personal accounts. Turner leaned back, a slight smile playing on his lips. This is better than we hoped. It's not just your house, it's a pattern. My phone buzzed again, this time from Annabelle. Gordon just showed up at my place looking for you. I told him to get lost. Also, you need to see what Xavier's wife just posted on Facebook. I pulled up the post. There it was, Xavier's wife showing off their new vacation home in Aspen, the same week my house had been sold. That's interesting timing, Camila said, looking over my shoulder. Wonder where that down payment came from. Turner was already typing. Property records show. Would you look at that? Purchased through BGI Holdings. The same company getting those regular transfers from Gordon, I said quietly. Maya sat down next to me. Holly, I know this is overwhelming, but you need to hear something. She pulled out her phone and played a voice message from Gordon. Maya, I know you and Annabelle are hiding her. Gordon's voice filled the room. Just tell Holly she's being ridiculous. This is business. The house was in my name. I had every right. She needs to understand her place in this marriage. My hands stopped shaking. Something inside me hardened. My place? I repeated. Let me show him my place. Turner pulled out a fresh legal pad. Here's what we're going to do. First, we file an emergency injunction to freeze the sale proceeds. Then, we go after the LLC for fraud. Won't that tip our hand? Camila asked. No, Turner smiled, because Holly here has something they don't know about. I pulled out the USB drive. Gordon's private records, everything he thought was safely hidden behind our wedding photo. Including emails between him and Xavier discussing this scheme going back 2 years, Maya added. Another message from Gordon. I'm giving you until tomorrow to come home and discuss this reasonably. After that, things will have to change. Things will change all right, I muttered. Turner handed me a document. Sign here. This gives us permission to subpoena all the LLC records. As I signed, Camila's phone pinged. She read the message and let out a low whistle. What? I asked. Remember that real estate agent I called? She just sent over Gordon's showing appointments from last month. Guess who was looking at penthouses downtown? I didn't need to guess. Gordon had been planning his exit strategy for months. Maya put her hand on my shoulder. Holly, whatever you decide to do next, we're all behind you. Turner, I said, straightening in my chair. How long until everything's ready? Give me till Friday, then we can move. I nodded, picking up my phone. One new message waited, from Xavier's wife. Holly, we need to talk. There's something you should know about Gordon and Xavier's business trips to Aspen. Friday it is, I said, looking at Turner. Time to show Gordon exactly what my place is in this marriage. Camila grinned. Should we tell him you're coming? No, I replied, finally allowing myself a small smile. Let's make it a surprise. After all, he loves making executive decisions without consulting me. Let's see how he likes it when the tables are turned. Turner gathered the documents into his briefcase. Remember, not a word to anyone. Let them think you're still too emotional to function. The element of surprise is our biggest advantage. I looked at my phone one last time before turning it off. Gordon's last message glowed on the screen. I hope you're using this time to think about your behavior. Oh, I was thinking all right, just not the way he imagined. You're late, Gordon snapped as I slid into my seat at his favorite restaurant. 5 days of silence had clearly worn on him. His usual perfectly pressed shirt was wrinkled, his hair unkempt. Traffic, I murmured, playing the part of the chastised wife. Across the restaurant, Camilla sat at the bar, pretending to read a book while keeping watch. I ordered for you already, Gordon said, his tone softening slightly. Your usual salmon? Of course he had. Heaven forbid I make my own choices. Where have you been staying? He asked, trying to sound casual. I shrugged, examining my menu despite his already ordering. Around? This silent treatment is beneath you, Holly. I've been trying to reach you for days. The waiter arrived with our drinks. I noticed Gordon had ordered me white wine, though I'd switched to red months ago, another detail he'd never bothered to notice. How's Xavier? I asked innocently. Enjoying his new place in Aspen? Gordon's hand tightened around his whiskey glass. What does that have to do with anything? Just making conversation. Isn't that what you wanted? To talk? Before he could respond, my phone buzzed. A text from Turner. Done. All accounts frozen. I took a sip of the wine I didn't want, watching Gordon over the rim of my glass. His phone buzzed in his pocket. Then again. And again. Excuse me, he said, pulling it out. I watched his face change as he read the messages. I need to make a call. The moment he stepped away, Camila slid into his seat. Xavier's blowing up his phone, she whispered. Turner's injunction just hit. They can't access any of the LLC accounts. How long until he realizes about the other accounts? Minutes, maybe seconds. Gordon returned, his face pale. Holly, I need to handle something. We'll have to do this another time. But you ordered my salmon, I said, widening my eyes. And we haven't even talked about the house yet. His phone buzzed again. This time, he answered it at the table. What do you mean, frozen? He hissed into the phone. How can they all be frozen? I could hear Xavier's panicked voice on the other end. Check the backup account, Gordon snapped. Then, what do you mean it's empty? That's impossible. I pulled out my own phone, opening my banking app. Oh, honey, I said softly. Is something wrong with the accounts? His head snapped up, eyes narrowing. What did you do? Me? I'm just a wife who doesn't understand business, remember? The waiter appeared with our food. The salmon for the lady? She's not staying, Gordon growled. Actually, I said, smoothing my napkin, I think I am. You did order for me, after all. His phone buzzed yet again. This time it was a text from his bank. I knew exactly what it said. The same message I'd received an hour ago when I'd transferred every penny from our joint accounts. Holly, he said, his voice dangerously low. What have you done? Made an executive decision, I replied, cutting into my salmon. The market was too good to pass up. You can't do this. Really? The accounts were in my name too, unlike the house. The color drained from his face. How did you know about that? Or about BGI Holdings? Or about the shell companies? I took another bite of salmon. It's actually quite good. You always did know what I liked. Well, except for the wine. His phone kept buzzing. Messages from Xavier, from their other partners, from their banks. This is illegal, he sputtered. Camila appeared at our table again, this time with Turner. Actually, Turner said, placing a thick envelope on the table, everything she's done is perfectly legal, unlike, say, using shell companies to hide assets from your spouse, or fraudulently using someone's inheritance money for personal gain. Gordon's face went from white to red. You brought a lawyer to dinner? Well, you brought Xavier into our marriage, I countered. Fair is fair. Mrs. McDonald, Turner said formally, shall we proceed with filing the divorce papers? Divorce? Gordon choked. Holly, be reasonable. I stood up, finally meeting his eyes. I am being reasonable. In fact, I'm being business-minded. Isn't that what you wanted? You'll regret this, Gordon threatened. No, I said, picking up my purse. I regret not doing it sooner. Oh, and Gordon, the salmon really was excellent. You should try it. I already paid for it, with what's left of your credit card. As I walked out with Turner and Camila, I heard Gordon's phone buzz one final time, a message from Xavier's wife. We need to talk about the women you brought to Aspen. The night wasn't over yet. They're scrambling, Camila said, scrolling through her phone. We sat in Turner's office the next morning, watching the aftermath unfold. Xavier's wife is posting cryptic messages about trust and betrayal. She's tagged every partner's wife in them. The LLC's lawyer has been trying to reach me since dawn, Turner added, checking his messages. They're offering to negotiate. I sipped my coffee, feeling strangely calm. Too late for that. My phone lit up with a text from Maya. Gordon just tried to get into your old house. The new owners called the police. He's unraveling, Annabelle said from her perch on Turner's windowsill. Good. Another message popped up, this one from Xavier's wife, Jessica. Holly, I'm ready to talk. Meet me at Riverside Cafe in an hour? I showed the message to Turner, who nodded. Go, but wear this. He handed me a small recording device, just in case. The cafe was quiet when I arrived. Jessica sat in a corner booth, looking nothing like her perfectly polished Facebook photos. Her eyes were red, her designer handbag clutched tight against her chest. Thank you for coming, she said as I sat down. I should have told you sooner. Told me what? She pulled out her phone, hands shaking. I found these last month. Didn't know what to do with them. She slid the phone across the table. Photos filled the screen, Gordon and Xavier at various locations, always with different women. The timestamps matched their supposed business trips. There's more, Jessica said, her voice breaking. The houses weren't just for flipping, they were party houses, I finished, the pieces clicking into place. That's why they sold below market value. They needed places that couldn't be traced back to them. She nodded. The women, some of them were escorts, expensive ones, paid through BGI Holdings, I said. That's what the regular transfers were for. My phone buzzed. A message from Gordon. Whatever Jessica tells you is a lie. She's unstable. Don't trust her. I showed Jessica the text. She laughed bitterly. Unstable? I have bank statements, Holly, receipts, hotel bookings, everything. Would you be willing to show those to my lawyer? I'll do better than that. She pulled out a USB drive. I'll give them to you. Xavier doesn't know I made copies. Just then, both our phones buzzed simultaneously. A group message from Xavier to several numbers. Emergency meeting at the office. Everyone needs to be there. No exceptions. He's panicking, Jessica said. They all are. The wives are talking to each other now, comparing notes. I stood up. Come with me to Turner's office. We need to move fast. Back at Turner's, the pieces fell into place rapidly. Jessica's evidence, combined with what we already had, painted a picture far darker than simple real estate fraud. This changes everything, Turner said, reviewing the files. We're not just looking at civil charges anymore. This is criminal territory. My phone hadn't stopped buzzing. Messages from Gordon grew increasingly desperate. Holly, we need to talk. This has gone too far. Think about what you're doing to our family. I can explain everything. Camila, who'd been quiet, suddenly sat up straight. Look at this, she said, pointing to her laptop. They're trying to transfer the house again, to another shell company. They can't, Turner said. The injunction. They're trying anyway. Desperate men do desperate things. As if on cue, Annabelle burst into the office. Gordon's at the house again. The owner's called. He's trying to break in. Turner was already dialing. I'm calling the police. This ends now. I picked up my phone, finally responding to Gordon's messages. Stop trying to enter the house. It's not yours anymore. Just like I'm not yours anymore. His reply came instantly. You have no idea what you're doing. You're ruining everything we built. No, I typed back. I'm exposing what you built. There's a difference. Jessica touched my arm. There's one more thing you should know. She pulled up another photo on her phone. It showed Gordon with a young woman entering a jewelry store. This was last week, right after he sold your house. The woman wore the same dress I'd once admired in a shop window. Gordon had called it tacky then, said it wasn't my style. Send it to me, I said quietly. My phone buzzed one final time. A message from Xavier. Holly, whatever Gordon's done, we can work this out. Name your price. I looked at Turner. They're offering a buyout. He smiled grimly. They don't understand, do they? This isn't about money anymore. No, I agreed, standing up. It's about justice, and it's time they learned the difference. Jessica straightened in her chair. What's next? I checked my watch. Their emergency meeting starts in an hour. Should we show up uninvited? Turner gathered his files. Let's give them a meeting they'll never forget. The elevator doors opened to the 12th floor of Xavier's office building. Gordon's voice echoed down the hallway, sharp with panic. What do you mean you can't reverse it? He shouted. Call them again. I walked toward the conference room, Turner and Jessica flanking me, Camilla bringing up the rear. Through the glass walls, I could see Gordon pacing while Xavier sat with his head in his hands. 3 other men, their business partners, huddled around a laptop. Ready? Turner whispered. I pushed open the door. Hope we're not interrupting. The room fell silent. Gordon froze mid-stride. Holly, Xavier recovered first, standing up. This is a private meeting. Private like the houses? Jessica stepped forward. Or private like the escorts? Xavier's face went ash white. Jess, what are you— Sit down, Turner commanded, his voice cutting through the tension. All of you, now. The men exchanged glances but complied. Gordon remained standing. You can't be here, he said, but his voice wavered. I pulled out a chair at the head of the table. Actually, I can. You see, I'm now a majority stakeholder in BGI Holdings. That's impossible, one of the partners sputtered. Check your phones, Camilla suggested sweetly. They did. The color drained from their faces as they saw the notifications. How? Gordon demanded. Remember that emergency fund you kept in the Cayman account? I smiled. The one you thought I didn't know about? Turns out, having my name on the account meant I could use it to buy shares. A lot of shares. You can't do this, Xavier said. She already has, Turner interjected, dropping a thick folder on the table, along with providing evidence of fraud, money laundering, and several other interesting activities to the relevant authorities. Gordon lunged for the folder. I pulled it back. I said. You might want to see this first. I nodded to Camilla, who started playing a video on the conference room screen. Security footage appeared, showing Gordon and Xavier entering various properties with different women. The timestamps matched Jessica's photos perfectly. We have hundreds of hours of this, I said quietly. From every house you've flipped. Holly, Gordon's voice turned pleading. Whatever you think this is, save it, Jessica cut in. I already told her everything. About the houses, the women, the parties, all of it. Xavier slumped in his chair. Jess, please. The FBI is very interested in your business model, Turner continued, his tone conversational, particularly the part about using real estate transactions to launder money for your little side business. The other partners started whispering frantically among themselves. You have 2 options, I said, standing up. Option 1, we turn everything over to the authorities. You all face charges. Your other properties get seized. Your wives find out exactly what kind of business meetings you've been having. Option 2, one of the partners asked weakly. You sign everything over. The properties, the companies, all of it. Walk away with enough to start over, but not enough to maintain your current lifestyles. That's blackmail, Gordon snarled. No, Turner corrected. It's negotiation. Your specialty, isn't it? My phone buzzed. A message from Annabelle. Police just arrested Gordon's friend trying to break into the house again. Want me to press charges? I showed the message to Gordon. Sending friends to do your dirty work now? You're bluffing, Xavier said suddenly. You wouldn't risk losing everything in a legal battle. I pulled out one final document. Remember that prenup you made me sign, Gordon? The one that said I get nothing if I'm unfaithful? I slid the paper across the table. Turns out it works both ways. And unlike you, I have proof. Gordon grabbed the paper, his hands shaking as he read. You have 1 hour to decide, Turner announced. After that, we go to the authorities. You'd destroy everything? Gordon asked, his voice barely a whisper. Just for revenge? I leaned across the table. No, honey, I'm just making an executive decision. The market for justice is too good to pass up. As we turned to leave, Jessica stood up. I'm going with them, she told Xavier. The divorce papers will be filed today. Jess, wait. Oh, I paused at the door. Gordon? That young woman you bought the diamond bracelet for last week? The one in the red dress? I smiled sweetly. She works for us. Consider the photo she took our insurance policy. The last thing I saw as the door closed was Gordon's face crumpling as he realized just how completely he'd been outplayed. In the elevator, Camilla checked her watch. 59 minutes until their world implodes. Unless they take the deal, Jessica added. They'll take it, I said confidently. Men like them always choose self-preservation over pride. Turner's phone buzzed. First partner's lawyer just called. They're ready to negotiate. I smiled. Right on schedule. Sign here and here. Turner pointed to the marked lines. Initial these pages. Gordon's hand trembled as he signed the documents. Across the conference table, Xavier and the other partners did the same, their lawyers hovering nervously behind them. 3 days had passed since our confrontation. We were back in the same conference room, but the power dynamic had shifted dramatically. That's the last of the property transfers, Turner announced, collecting the papers. BGI Holdings is now officially under new management. You've ruined us, Xavier muttered, not meeting anyone's eyes. No, Jessica corrected from her seat beside me. You ruined yourselves. We just exposed it. My phone buzzed with a message from Annabelle. The moving truck's just finished at the house. Everything's out. Gordon looked up sharply at the sound. Where are my things? In storage, I replied coolly, just like you did with mine. The access code will be sent to your lawyer. What am I supposed to do now? His voice cracked. Where am I supposed to go? Funny, I said. Those are the exact questions I asked myself when you sold our house. One of the partners stood up abruptly. This is insane. We had a good thing going. A good thing? Camila interrupted, pulling up photos on the conference room screen. You mean these good things? Images flashed across the screen. Their parties, their secret meetings, bank statements showing suspicious transfers. Enough, Turner said firmly. The deals are signed. You've all been more than fairly compensated considering the alternatives. Fairly compensated? Gordon spat. You've taken everything. Not everything, I corrected. Just the illegally obtained assets. You each still have your personal accounts. Well, what's left of them? Xavier's lawyer cleared his throat. My client would like to discuss the matter of the Aspen property. The property purchased with laundered money? Turner raised an eyebrow. That property has been surrendered to authorities as evidence of criminal activity. Unless you'd like to explain its funding source to the FBI? The lawyer fell silent. My phone buzzed again. This time from Maya. Police just called. They're ready to move on the other properties whenever you give the word. I showed the message to Turner, who nodded. Gentlemen, he announced, I suggest you use what's left of your resources to start fresh, somewhere far away, because once this goes public... Public? Xavier's head snapped up. We promised not to press charges, Jessica cut in. We never promised silence. Gordon stood up, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. Holly, please, we can work this out. We can start over. Like you were planning to start over with that girl in the red dress? I pulled out one final photo. Gordon in the jewelry store, caught in the act. How much did that bracelet cost? More or less than my inheritance you stole? He collapsed back into his chair, defeated. Mr. Gordon, Turner said firmly, I suggest you leave now. Your new apartment lease starts today. The address has been sent to your lawyer. New apartment? Gordon looked confused. 1 bedroom, 3rd floor walk-up, I said. The rent fits within your new budget. I picked it myself. Considered it my final executive decision in our marriage. The partners filed out one by one, their lawyers herding them toward the elevators. Xavier paused at the door. Jessica, he started. Save it, she cut him off. The divorce papers are being filed this afternoon. Your things will be gone by the time I get home. Gordon was the last to leave. He stopped beside my chair. I never meant, he began. Yes, you did, I interrupted. You meant every bit of it. You just never thought I'd fight back. The door closed behind him with a final click. Well, Camila said into the silence. That was satisfying. Turner gathered his briefcase. The properties will be sold at market value. The proceeds will be split among the victims of their scheme. And the houses they used for their parties? Jessica asked. Evidence in an ongoing investigation, Turner smiled. The authorities are very interested in their guest lists. My phone lit up one last time. A message from Gordon. I'm sorry. Too little, too late. Ready to go? Camila asked, standing up. I looked around the conference room where my marriage had effectively ended, where justice had finally been served. Just one more thing, I said, pulling out an envelope. Inside was the USB drive I'd taken from behind our wedding photo. Gordon's secret insurance policy that had become his downfall. I dropped it in the shredder. Now I'm ready. As we walked out, Jessica linked her arm through mine. What next? I smiled. I hear the real estate market is looking up. Maybe it's time to buy a new house. One that's all mine? Perfect, I said, signing the final document. The keys to my new house clinked as Turner handed them over. Congratulations, he smiled. This one's all yours. No hidden surprises, no secret partners. Camila bounced excitedly beside me. Can we see it now? We drove to the house, my house, in comfortable silence. It sat on a quiet street, smaller than my old home, but somehow more significant. The garden needed work. The paint was chipping, but it was mine. All mine. Look what we brought, Annabelle's voice rang out as we pulled up. She and Maya stood on the porch, holding paint rollers and takeout bags. We thought you might want to make it yours right away, Maya explained. My phone buzzed, a news alert. The headline made me pause. Local real estate scheme exposed. Multiple arrests made. They actually did it, Jessica said, reading over my shoulder. She'd arrived with a bottle of champagne and determination in her eyes. They tried to start the business up again in another state. Not very smart, Turner noted, pulling up the full article. The FBI was watching their every move. Speaking of moves, Camila interrupted. Gordon's girlfriend, the one in the red dress, just testified against him. Turns out she was working with 3 other escort agencies they'd used. I unlocked the front door, letting everyone in. The empty rooms echoed with possibility. Paint first or food first? Annabelle asked, holding up the rollers. Actually, I said, there's something else first. I pulled out a small box from my bag. Inside was a framed photo, not my wedding photo this time, but a new one taken last week. It showed all of us. Me, Annabelle, Maya, Camila, Jessica, even Turner, celebrating the final court victory. Where should we hang it? Maya asked. Right here. I pointed to the living room wall, where everyone can see it. As Maya hung the photo, my phone buzzed again. A message from Gordon's sister. He's asking about you. Says he wants to apologize properly. I showed it to the others. Delete it, Jessica advised, like I deleted Xavier's 100 messages of regret. Already done, I said. Some chapters need to stay closed. We ordered pizza, opened Jessica's champagne, and started painting the living room. The color, a bold terracotta, was nothing like the safe beige Gordon had insisted on in our old house. Have you seen the latest property listings? Camila asked, rolling paint onto the walls. The houses they used for their parties are being converted into women's shelters. The Justice Department approved it this morning. Good, I said firmly. Something positive should come from all this. Turner's phone rang. He stepped out to take the call, returning with a satisfied smile. That was the prosecutor, he announced. Gordon and Xavier took plea deals. They're looking at significant time. The others too. How long? Jessica asked quietly. 5 to 7 years. Plus restitution to all affected parties. Maya raised her champagne glass. To karma. To friendship, Annabelle added. To new beginnings, Jessica chimed in. To executive decisions, I finished, clinking my glass with theirs. As the evening wore on, we painted and planned. Jessica talked about the support group she'd started for women in similar situations. Camila shared ideas for a real estate advocacy program. Maya and Annabelle discussed their upcoming wedding. You know what's funny? I said, stepping back to admire our work. Gordon always said I was bad at making decisions, that I needed his guidance. And now look who's guiding who, Camila grinned. My phone buzzed one final time. An email from the Justice Department. Victim restitution program, first payment processed. What will you do with it? Turner asked. I looked around at my new home, at the family I'd chosen, at the life I'd rebuilt. I'm thinking of starting a foundation, I said, for women who need help getting out of bad situations. Legal aid, housing assistance, that sort of thing. Count me in, Jessica said immediately. Me too, Camila added. Us 3, Maya said, hugging Annabelle. Turner pulled out his business card. You'll need a good lawyer. I looked at the newly painted wall, at our group photo hanging proudly in the center. The terracotta color reminded me of sunrise, fitting for this new chapter. You know what Gordon used to say about sunrise? I picked up my paint roller again. That it was just the same sun, different day. And what do you say? Annabelle asked. I dipped the roller in paint, adding another stroke to my fresh start. I say it's a new sun, a new day, and this time, I'm the one making the executive decisions. The room filled with laughter and agreement, the sound echoing off newly painted walls that would never hide secrets or shelter lies. Just truth, justice, and the family I'd found along the way.
The first time I seized during surgery, I thought my career was over. Instead, it became my defining moment. My name is Kennedy, and I've spent my entire life proving people wrong. Right now, I'm standing in the operating room of Boston General, my hands steady as I prepare to remove a tumor from a patient's temporal lobe. The familiar weight of surgical instruments feels like home, even as the memory of that first seizure lingers in my mind. Dr. Parker, patient's BP is stable, my assistant calls out. I nod, focused on the delicate tissue before me. The rhythmic beeping of monitors fills the silence as I work. This is where I belong, despite what my family spent years telling me. You'll never be a doctor, my mother's voice echoes from the past. Your condition makes you a liability. Think of our family's reputation. The memory makes my jaw clench, but my hands remain steady. I've performed this procedure hundreds of times. My epilepsy is controlled now, thanks to the aunt who actually bothered to help me find the right treatment when my parents shipped me off to live with her. Looking good. Sullivan, my colleague, comments from across the table. Clean margins. 3 hours later, I'm washing up when Sullivan joins me at the sink. That's what, your 5th successful temporal lobe resection this month? 6th, I correct him, unable to hide my smile. But who's counting? The board is, he says, drying his hands. Word is they're considering you for department head. I pause, letting that sink in. Department head of neurosurgery at 34. Not bad for someone my father once called damaged goods. Coffee? Sullivan asks. You can tell me all about how you're not going to call your family to brag. I laugh, but it's hollow. They stopped taking my calls years ago. Besides, I doubt they'd care unless they could somehow use it to boost their social standing. We head to the hospital cafe, our scrubs drawing the usual respectful nods from staff and visitors. Sullivan grabs our usual table while I get our coffee. Black for him, oat milk latte for me. Saw your parents in the society pages again, he mentions as I sit down. Something about a charity gala? Let me guess. Supporting children with cancer? I take a sip of my coffee. They love causes that make them look good, as long as the suffering stays at arm's length. You ever wonder if they regret it? Sending you away? They regret having a child with epilepsy. There's a difference. I check my phone. 3 new patient referrals. Besides, Aunt Mia gave me something they never could. Acceptance. Sullivan leans forward. Speaking of acceptance, that article about your innovative approach to temporal lobe surgeries is getting serious attention. The medical journal wants to feature you on the cover. Now that might actually make my mother notice me, I say with a smirk. Though she'd probably just criticize my hair in the photo. My pager buzzes. Emergency consult needed. As I stand, Sullivan catches my arm. Hey, Kennedy. You know you proved them all wrong, right? You're not just successful despite your epilepsy, you're successful, period. I give him a genuine smile. Thanks, Sully. Sometimes I still need to hear that. Racing to the ER, I feel the familiar rush of purpose. Every successful surgery, every life saved, is a testament to what I've overcome. My family might have written me off, but their rejection became my motivation. The ER is chaos, standard for a Friday night. I spot my resident waiting by the nurse's station. What have we got? I ask, taking the offered tablet. Male, 42, presented with severe headaches and focal seizures. CT shows a mass in the left frontal lobe. I review the scan, already formulating a surgical plan. This is where I shine, where my past transforms into purpose. Every time I help someone with a neurological condition, I think of that scared teenage girl being told she was too broken to succeed. Book an OR, I tell the resident. We're going in tonight. As I prepare for another surgery, I catch my reflection in the window. I see what my family couldn't. Not a liability, but a force of nature. My epilepsy didn't define my limits. It showed me how to break them. The OR lights flick on, and I take my position at the head of the table. This is my revenge. Not just surviving, but thriving. Every life I save is a middle finger to those who said I couldn't. Every successful surgery proves that sometimes the best thing your family can do is underestimate you. Because that's the thing about being underestimated. It gives you one hell of a motivation to prove everyone wrong. The call came on a Tuesday morning, just as I was reviewing post-op notes in my office. I almost didn't answer the unknown number. Dr. Parker speaking. Kennedy? The voice was familiar, though I hadn't heard it in years. It's your mother. My hand froze over the patient chart. 15 years of silence, and now this? What do you want? My voice came out harder than I expected. It's Quincy. He's sick. Very sick. A pause. We need your help. Of course. They wouldn't call unless they needed something. I'm sure there are plenty of qualified neurosurgeons in New York. They say you're the best, the only one who can perform the type of surgery he needs. Her voice cracked. Please, Kennedy, he's your brother. I closed my eyes, remembering the last time I saw Quincy. He stood silent while our parents packed my bags, shipping me off to Aunt Mia's like damaged merchandise. I'll review his case files, I said finally. Have them sent to Boston General. That's all I'm promising. 2 days later, they showed up at my hospital. I was walking to my office when I saw them. My mother in her designer suit, my father looking distinguished in gray, and Quincy noticeably thinner than I remembered, leaning on a cane. Sullivan appeared at my side. Want me to tell them you're in surgery? No. I straightened my white coat. Time to face the music. My mother moved to hug me, but I stepped back. Let's take this to my office. The walk was silent, heavy with unspoken words. Inside, they took seats while I remained standing, putting my desk between us. The tumor's location is tricky, I said, pulling up Quincy's scans. Near the brainstem. Most surgeons won't touch it. But you can? Quincy asked, his voice weak. I've developed a technique for accessing tumors in this region. The success rate is high, but there are still risks. Money is no object. My father spoke up. Whatever you need. I don't want your money. The words came out sharp. I haven't wanted anything from you since I was 16. My mother's perfectly maintained facade cracked. Kennedy, please. We know we made mistakes. Mistakes? I laughed. You abandoned your daughter because she had a medical condition. You chose your reputation over your child. We thought we were protecting you, my father argued. Protecting me? By sending me away? By cutting off contact? I turned to Quincy. By letting your son pretend he didn't have a sister? Quincy looked down. I was young. I didn't understand. You were 14, not 4. You understood plenty. Sullivan knocked and entered, providing a welcome interruption. Sorry, Dr. Parker, but your 3 o'clock is here. Thank you, Dr. Vasquez. I turned back to my family. I'll need time to consider whether I'll take this case. Consider? My mother stood up. Quincy could die. Yes, he could. Just like I could have died from untreated epilepsy if Aunt Mia hadn't stepped in. I met each of their eyes. Funny how that works, isn't it? What do you want from us? My father asked, his voice tight. I want you to understand what it feels like to be at someone else's mercy, to need help from people who threw you away. I moved toward the door. I'll let you know my decision in a few days. Kennedy, Quincy called out as I opened the door. I'm sorry, for everything. I paused, hand on the doorknob. Sorry doesn't change the past, Quincy, but it might affect the future. After they left, Sullivan found me in the doctor's lounge, staring into a cold cup of coffee. You okay? They haven't changed, I said, still trying to throw money at their problems. Are you going to do it? The surgery? I looked at him. Should I? Professionally? You're his best shot at survival. He sat beside me. Personally? That's your call. But remember, Whatever you decide, it needs to be something you can live with. My pager buzzed. Emergency in the OR. As I stood to leave, Sullivan caught my arm. Hey, one more thing. Whatever you decide, you're not that powerless 16-year-old anymore. You're Dr. Kennedy Parker, and you call the shots now. I nodded, feeling a plan form in my mind. They wanted my help? Fine. But this time, we'd do things my way. Heading to the OR, I pulled out my phone and made a call. Ruben, it's Kennedy. Remember that story you wanted to write about medical discrimination? I think I have something better. How do you feel about family drama, redemption, and a little karmic justice? The journalist's interest was immediate. I'm listening. Good, because this story, it's just getting started. You want them to do what? Sullivan nearly choked on his coffee as we sat in my office discussing my terms. A public apology, I repeated, scrolling through Quincy's latest test results. And I want them to fund a foundation for families affected by neurological conditions. That's bold. He leaned forward. Your parents are going to lose their minds. They lost their humanity years ago. This is just making it official. I turned my laptop around to show him an email. Ruben's already interested in covering the story. A knock at my door interrupted us. Aunt Mia stood there, her silver hair neat as always, concern etched on her face. I came as soon as I got your message, she said, pulling me into a hug. Are you sure about this? I gestured for her to sit. Remember when I had that seizure at your house? My first week there? Mia's eyes softened. Of course. You were so scared. You held me afterward. Told me I wasn't broken, just different. I swallowed hard. That's what this foundation could do for other kids. Show them they're not alone. While publicly humiliating your parents in the process. Sullivan added with a slight smirk. That's just a bonus. My phone buzzed. A text from Quincy. Can we talk? Alone? 20 minutes later, I found him in the hospital garden, looking smaller than I remembered. The golden child of the family, reduced to this. Your latest scans show the tumors growing, I said, sitting beside him. I know. He stared at his hands. I also know about your terms. Mom's having a meltdown. Shocking. Kennedy. He turned to face me. That day they sent you away. I've replayed it so many times. No, let me finish. I watched them pack your things while you were at school. Dad said it was for the best, that you'd get better care with Aunt Mia. His voice cracked. I knew it was wrong, but I was scared. Scared of standing up to them. Scared of losing their approval like you did. Scared of your sister's broken brain? The words came out bitter. Scared of becoming an outsider, too. He met my eyes. I was a coward. A memory flashed. Quincy sneaking into my room the night before, promising we'd always be close. Another broken promise in a lifetime of them. You know what the worst part was? I said. Not the rejection from Mom and Dad. I expected that. It was losing my little brother. You were my best friend, Quincy. I know. He wiped his eyes. That's why I'm going to support your terms. All of them. I stared at him. What? The public apology, the foundation, whatever you want. I'll make it happen. He grabbed my hand. Let me try to be the brother I should have been. My pager buzzed, a welcome interruption as emotions threatened to overwhelm me. I have to go. Surgery. Kennedy? He called as I stood. I really am sorry. Back in my office later that night, I called Ruben. I want to do the interview, I said, but I have conditions. Name them. We focus on the foundation, not just family drama. This needs to be about helping people, not just revenge. Even better, he said. When can we start? A knock at my door revealed Sullivan with takeout. Thought you might need dinner and moral support. Perfect timing. I put Ruben on speaker. Let's draft these terms properly. For the next hour, we outlined everything. The public apology, the foundation's structure, the media strategy. It felt surreal, turning years of pain into something productive. "Your parents won't like this," Sullivan warned as we finished. "They don't have to like it, they just have to do it." I checked my phone. 3 missed calls from my mother. Besides, what choice do they have? Dr. Parker? My resident appeared at the door. "Mr. Parker's latest labs are concerning. His pressure's rising." I grabbed my coat. Time to make a decision. "Kennedy?" Sullivan called after me. "Whatever you decide, make sure it's about healing, not hurting." In Quincy's room, I found my parents already there. Mother's makeup was smeared from crying, father's usual composure cracking. "Well?" Mother demanded. "Will you help him?" I looked at Quincy, pale against the hospital sheets, then at my parents, their perfectly crafted world crumbling around them. "Yes," I said finally. "I'll do the surgery, but first we're going to have a press conference, and you're going to tell the truth. All of it." "You can't be serious," Father started. "I am. And if you want the best neurosurgeon in Boston to save your son, you'll do exactly what I say." I headed for the door, then paused. "Oh, and Mom, wear waterproof mascara to the press conference. You're going to need it." The hospital conference room buzzed with anticipation. Reporters filled every seat, cameras ready. Ruben sat in the front row, giving me a subtle nod. "Are you sure about this?" Sullivan whispered as we waited in the adjacent room. "Watch and learn." I straightened my white coat and checked my phone. One new message from Aunt Mia. "Give them hell, sweetheart." My parents entered, looking like they were heading to a funeral. Mother's designer suit couldn't hide her trembling hands. Father's jaw was clenched so tight I worried he'd crack a tooth. "Remember," I said quietly, "stick to the script or I walk." The press conference began with hospital administration introducing me as their leading neurosurgeon. I stepped up to the podium, feeling the weight of 15 years of silence lifting. "Thank you for coming," I began. "Today isn't just about medical advancement. It's about truth, accountability, and the power of second chances." The cameras clicked as I continued. "Many of you know the Parker family as pillars of New York society. What you don't know is their secret, how they handled having a daughter with epilepsy." My mother flinched. "Good. I'm here to announce the creation of the New Horizons Foundation, dedicated to supporting families affected by neurological conditions. And now my parents would like to say a few words." Father approached the podium first, his usual confidence nowhere to be seen. 15 years ago, he read from his prepared statement, "We made a terrible mistake. When our daughter developed epilepsy, we chose our reputation over her well-being. We sent her away, cut contact, and tried to erase her from our lives." A reporter's hand shot up. "Mr. Parker, are you saying you abandoned your daughter because of a medical condition?" "Yes," he admitted, his voice cracking. "We did." Mother was next, barely holding it together. We were wrong. The shame isn't in having epilepsy. The shame is in how we treated our daughter." Ruben stood up. "Mrs. Parker, how does it feel knowing you need your daughter's help now, after years of rejecting her?" Mother's carefully applied makeup couldn't hide her flush. "It feels deserved." The questions came rapid fire after that. Each answer stripped away another layer of my parents' carefully constructed facade. Their social standing crumbled in real time, broadcast live across multiple networks. Suddenly, my pager went off. Quincy's name flashed on the screen. "Excuse me," I said, cutting through the chaos. "My brother needs medical attention." Racing to Quincy's room, I found him seizing. Sullivan was already there, helping the nurses. "BP's through the roof," he reported. "We need to operate. Now." "Get him prepped," I ordered, then turned to my parents who had followed me. "Looks like your public confession gets cut short." "Please." Mother grabbed my arm. "Save him." I pulled away. "That's what I do, Mother. I save people. Even those who didn't save me." The next hours were a blur of preparation. As the OR team got ready, Ruben caught me in the hallway. "The story's blowing up," he said. "Social media's on fire. Your parents are trending." "Good." I replied, washing my hands. Let them feel what it's like to be exposed, vulnerable. Kennedy. He hesitated. Your brother's condition, it's not part of your plan, right? I turned to him, anger flaring. I'm a doctor. I don't play games with people's lives, even if they played games with mine. In the OR prep room, Sullivan helped me with my surgical gown. Your hands are steady, he observed. They always are. I looked through the window at Quincy, unconscious on the table, even when my world isn't. Dr. Parker, a nurse called out. Your mother's asking if she can observe from the gallery. I paused, considering. Let her. Let her see exactly what her daughter became without her help. The OR lights blazed as I took my position. Looking up, I saw my mother in the observation room, pressing her hand against the glass. Scalpel, I called out. As I made the first incision, I heard Sullivan's voice. Remember what you said about healing, not hurting? I remember, I replied, focused on the delicate tissue before me. But sometimes healing hurts worse than the injury. The monitors beeped steadily as I worked, my technique precise. Each movement brought me closer to saving my brother's life, and closer to completing my revenge. In the gallery, my mother watched her 2 children, one fighting for life, the other fighting to save it. Both lost to her in different ways. BP dropping, a nurse announced. Come on, Quincy, I muttered. Don't you dare die on my table. We're not done yet. The monitors screamed in warning, and suddenly my perfect plan didn't seem so important anymore. He's stabilizing, I announced, watching the monitors return to normal. The entire OR seemed to exhale collectively. 8 hours later, I stepped out of surgery to find my parents and Aunt Mia in the waiting room. Mother jumped up, mascara streaked down her face. He's alive, I said before she could speak. The surgery was successful. Father slumped in his chair while Mother burst into fresh tears. Aunt Mia caught my eye and smiled proudly. When can we see him? Mother asked. He'll be in recovery for several hours. I checked my phone, dozens of notifications from the press conference coverage. Meanwhile, we need to discuss the foundation. Now? Father's head snapped up. Our son just had brain surgery. And my childhood was destroyed by your shame. We all have our crosses to bear. I sat down across from them. The paperwork's ready. $10 million initial funding plus annual contributions. 10 million? Father sputtered. Would you prefer I list a price for your son's life? I met his gaze steadily. Because I can do that too. Aunt Mia stepped in. Royal Poppy, just sign the papers. You've lost enough already. While they reviewed the documents with the hospital's lawyer, Sullivan brought me coffee. Your revenge is trending on Twitter, he said, showing me his phone. Parker family and neurological justice are going viral. Good. I took a sip. The more attention, the better. Every family like ours needs to see this. Dr. Parker? A nurse approached. Your brother's asking for you. In recovery, Quincy looked pale but alert. The bandages around his head made him seem younger, vulnerable. Hey, sis, he whispered. Hey, yourself. I checked his vitals. How's the pain? Worth it. He caught my hand. I saw the news coverage. Mom and Dad looked destroyed. That was the point. No. He squeezed my hand. The point was the foundation, the families you'll help. The rest is just karma. Before I could respond, Ruben appeared in the doorway. Sorry to interrupt, but you might want to see this. He held up his tablet. My mother was on the screen, standing at a podium outside the hospital. My daughter, she was saying, tears flowing freely, has shown me what true strength looks like. While we rejected her for her condition, she turned it into her purpose. She became a brilliant surgeon not despite her epilepsy, but perhaps because of it. Because it taught her empathy, resilience, and determination. All the things we failed to teach her. Is this live? I asked Ruben. He nodded. She called the press herself. No script, no PR team. On screen, my mother continued. The New Horizons Foundation isn't just our daughter's demand for justice. It's her gift to families who might make the same terrible mistakes we did. We're not just funding it. We're dedicating ourselves to its mission. Wow, Quincy whispered. I've never seen Mom like this. Kennedy? Father appeared in the doorway. Your mother's making a statement. I can see that. I turned to him. Did you know about this? He shook his head. She said she needed to do something real. Something unscripted. On the tablet, Mother was wrapping up. To every family struggling with neurological conditions, you're not alone. And to my daughter Kennedy, you've become everything we should have helped you be. I know sorry isn't enough, but maybe this foundation can be a start. The room fell silent except for the steady beep of Quincy's monitors. Well, Sullivan said from behind me, looks like your mother just went off script in the best possible way. My pager buzzed. Another patient needed attention. Real life didn't stop for family drama. I have to go, I told Quincy. Try to rest. In the hallway, Aunt Mia caught up with me. Your mother's statement. That wasn't part of your plan, was it? No, I admitted. That was unexpected. Maybe that's what makes it meaningful. She hugged me tight. Sometimes the best revenge is letting people realize their mistakes on their own. Later that night, reviewing the foundation paperwork in my office, I found a handwritten note from my mother. The foundation will help others, but it won't fix our past. That's a different kind of surgery, one that requires time, truth, and hope. If you'll let us, we'd like to try. Mom, Sullivan found me staring at the note. You okay? I wanted revenge, I said quietly. I wanted them to hurt like I hurt. But now you're seeing that sometimes the best revenge is success? He smiled. Or maybe it's watching people realize exactly what they threw away. My phone lit up with a text from Ruben. Foundation stories everywhere. You're changing lives already. I looked at my mother's note again, then at the foundation papers. Maybe this wasn't just about revenge anymore. Maybe it was about something bigger. Something that could heal more than just my family's wounds. Time to start the real work, I said, reaching for my pen. 3 days after his first surgery, Quincy's scans showed complications. I stared at the images, Sullivan at my side. There's still pressure building. I pointed to the screen. We need to go back in. Higher risk this time, Sullivan noted. The tissue will be more fragile. Tell me something I don't know. I rubbed my temples. Get the OR prepped. We go in tonight. In Quincy's room, Mother sat holding his hand while Father paced. They both looked up when I entered. The swelling's worse, I said, getting straight to the point. We need another surgery. But you said the first one was successful. Mother's voice shook. It was. This is a complication. It happens sometimes with brain surgery. I checked Quincy's vitals. The good news is we caught it early. The bad news? Quincy asked weakly. The bad news is it's riskier than the first surgery. The brain tissue is more sensitive now. Father stopped pacing. What are his chances? Without surgery? 0. With surgery? I met Quincy's eyes. I'll do everything I can. That's not an answer, Father snapped. It's the only answer I can give. I turned to leave, then paused. You might want to call your lawyer. Update any paperwork, just in case. In the hallway, Aunt Mia waited with coffee. You're scaring them, she said, handing me a cup. Good. They should be scared. I am. She touched my arm. Kennedy, sweetheart, are you sure you should be doing this surgery? Emotionally? Who else would you trust with your nephew's life? That's not what I meant. I know what you meant. I checked my watch. I need to prep. In the OR prep room, I was washing up when Sullivan entered. Your hands are shaking, he observed. No, they're not. But they were. Slightly. Kennedy, don't. I scrubbed harder. Just don't. Okay, then let me ask you this. Are you trembling because you're scared of losing your brother or because you're scared of saving him? I stopped scrubbing. What's that supposed to mean? It means revenge is simple, forgiveness is complicated. Before I could respond, Quincy was wheeled past us toward the OR. He caught my eye through the window, managing a weak smile. "Dr. Parker?" A nurse appeared. "Your parents are asking about observing again." I nodded. "Let them watch. They should see what their son is going through." In the OR, everything was ready. I looked up at the observation room where my parents stood, mother clutching father's arm. "Scalpel," I called out. The first incision was clean, but as we got deeper, complications arose. "BP's dropping," a nurse announced. "I see it," I said, hands steady despite my racing heart. "Push more fluids." "Heart rate's elevated," Sullivan warned. "Come on, Quincy," I muttered. "Work with me here." In the gallery, I heard Mother's muffled sob. For a moment, I was 16 again, hearing her cry about how my epilepsy would ruin the family name. "Kennedy." Sullivan's voice cut through the memory. "Focus." Right. Focus. This wasn't about the past. This was about saving my brother's life. Hours passed. The surgery was delicate, each movement crucial. Finally, the pressure began to decrease. "Looking good," Sullivan confirmed. "Swelling's reducing." I was about to close when the monitors screamed, "He's crashing!" "No, no, no," I worked frantically. "Don't you dare, Quincy. Not now." Mother's screams from the gallery pierced the OR. Father's face pressed against the glass. "Starting chest compressions," a nurse called out. "Come on, little brother," I pleaded, working to stabilize him. "You don't get to die on my table. You don't get to make me the villain in this story." The monitors continued their awful sound. 1 minute passed. 2. Then finally a steady beep. "He's back," Sullivan announced. "We've got him." I finished closing, my hands still steady despite everything. When I looked up at the gallery, my parents were holding each other, crying. In the scrub room afterward, I finally let my hands shake. "You did it," Sullivan said quietly. "Yeah." I stripped off my surgical gown. I did. "So what now?" I thought about Mother's tears, Father's fear, Quincy's trust in me despite everything. Now? I took a deep breath. Now we see if healing runs in both directions. Outside, dawn was breaking over Boston. Another day, another chance to either hold on to anger or let it go. My pager buzzed. Quincy was waking up. Time to face my brother. Time to face my family. Time to face whatever came next. "Hey, Rockstar." Quincy's voice was weak but clear as I entered his recovery room. "Heard you had to restart my heart." "Just keeping things interesting." I checked his vitals. "How's the pain?" "Worth it." He caught my hand. "You saved my life. Twice." "That's what doctors do." "Is that what sisters do too?" Before I could answer, Mother burst into the room, Father close behind. "The foundation website just launched," she announced, holding up her tablet. "Look at the donations pouring in." I took the tablet, scrolling through the numbers. Over 2 million in public donations already, on top of my parents' contribution. "People are sharing their stories," Father added. "Families who went through similar situations?" "I know." I handed the tablet back. "Ruben's been keeping me updated." "Kennedy." Mother stepped closer. "We've been thinking about the foundation's leadership. If you're trying to take control..." "No," she interrupted. "We want you to lead it, with Aunt Mia as co-chair." I stared at her. "What?" "You understand these families better than anyone," Father said. "You lived it, and clearly you know how to make things happen. Plus," Quincy added from his bed, "you're kind of trending as a medical hero now." Sullivan appeared in the doorway. "Sorry to interrupt, but Dr. Parker's needed for a consultation." "Go." Quincy waved me off. "Save more lives. We'll be here." In the hallway, Sullivan grinned. "There's no consultation. Just thought you might need an escape route." Thanks. I leaned against the wall. Did you hear about the foundation? The whole hospital's talking about it. You're becoming quite the celebrity. That's not what I wanted, isn't it? He raised an eyebrow. You wanted to expose their shame, right? Make them face consequences? Yeah, but now they're actually trying to make amends and it's messing with your revenge narrative? Before I could respond, Aunt Mia appeared with coffee. Your mother just called me about co-chairing the foundation, she said. What do you think? I took the coffee. I think I need to show you something. I led them to my office, pulling up files on my computer. These are all the cases I've handled involving families like mine. Kids with epilepsy, tumors, neurological conditions. I scrolled through the list. Every single one faced some form of discrimination or abandonment. And you helped them all, Sullivan noted. I tried, but it's not enough. One doctor can only do so much. I turned to Aunt Mia. But a foundation? With real funding and public support? We could help hundreds of families, she finished. Maybe thousands. My pager buzzed. This time, a real consultation. Think about it, I told Aunt Mia. The foundation needs someone who understands both sides, the medical and the personal. Back in Quincy's room later that night, I found him alone, reading foundation proposals on his laptop. Shouldn't you be resting? I asked. Can't. Too excited about this. He patted the bed beside him. Come look at these programs we could fund. I sat down, scanning the screen. Support groups, medical research, family counseling. Remember when we were kids? He asked suddenly. How you used to read me bedtime stories. Before the seizures started. No, he corrected. Even after. You'd come into my room even when Mom and Dad said not to. Said I needed to understand your condition wasn't contagious. I'd forgotten that. You were scared. I was stupid. He closed the laptop. But you never gave up on me. Even now. Yeah, well, I stood up. Maybe that's the problem with being a doctor. We're not supposed to give up on people. Is that why you saved me? Doctor's oath? No. I checked his IV. I saved you because you're my brother, and maybe that still means something. The next morning, I found my parents in the hospital cafeteria with Aunt Mia, surrounded by foundation paperwork. We're thinking of naming it New Horizons, Mother said as I approached. Unless you have a better idea? I sat down, looking at their eager faces. Actually, I do. Of course you do, Father smiled. You always were the smart one. The Parker Family Foundation for Neurological Support, I said. Because this isn't about hiding anymore, is it? Mother's eyes welled up. No, it's not. Good. I pulled out my phone. Because Ruben wants to do a follow-up story about how a family's shame turned into something beautiful. Are you ready for that? Aunt Mia asked. To tell the whole story? I thought about Quincy upstairs, healing. About my parents, trying to make amends. About all the families who needed what we could offer. Yeah, I said. I think I am. Ready? Sullivan asked as we stood outside the Foundation's new medical center. Almost. I adjusted my white coat, fingers brushing against the epilepsy awareness pin on my lapel. Just waiting for everyone. Quincy arrived first, walking without assistance now. Place looks amazing, sis. Wait until you see inside. I watched more cars pull up. How's the head? Better than the company's stock after Dad handed me back the CEO position. He grinned. Turns out near-death experiences change your priorities. My parents approached next, Mother carrying a stack of brochures for the center's opening. She'd traded her designer suits for something more practical. The first families are already waiting, she said, including that teenage girl you told us about. Sarah. I nodded. Her parents tried to pull her out of school when she was diagnosed with epilepsy. Not anymore, Father added. Our legal team made sure of that. Aunt Mia joined us, clipboard in hand. Press is ready when you are, Kennedy. Taking a deep breath, I stepped up to the podium. Cameras flashed as I faced the crowd. "Welcome to the Parker Family Foundation's first Neurological Support Center," I began. "But before we cut any ribbons, I want you to meet someone." I gestured to Sarah, who walked up nervously, her parents following. 3 months ago, Sarah had her first seizure in math class. Her parents, scared and uninformed, wanted to hide her away. I met my mother's eyes. "I know that fear. My family lived it." Sarah's mother spoke up. "But the foundation helped us understand. Showed us we weren't alone." "That's why we're here today," I continued. "This center isn't just about medical treatment. It's about support, education, and acceptance." Ruben raised his hand from the press section. "Dr. Parker, how does it feel seeing your family actively involved in the foundation?" I looked at my parents, who now spent their social capital advocating for neurological awareness instead of hiding from it. "It feels like healing," I answered honestly. "On all sides." After the ceremony, I gave tours of the facility. Mother led support group orientations while father handled administrative meetings. Quincy worked the crowd, his natural charm now serving a better purpose. In the children's wing, I found Sarah exploring the specially designed playroom. "Cool place," she said. "Better than hiding in my room." "I had a room like that once," I told her. "Until someone taught me I deserved better." I felt Aunt Mia's hand on my shoulder. "And now you're teaching others the same thing." Later, in my new office overlooking the center's garden, Sullivan brought coffee. "Quite a change from plotting revenge," he observed. "Turns out revenge isn't as satisfying as actual change." I picked up a framed photo from my desk. Me and Quincy in his hospital room, both smiling despite everything. A knock at the door revealed my mother. "Kennedy, there's a family in the consultation room. Their daughter just had her first seizure." "I'll be right there." I stood up, straightening my coat. "Want me to come?" she asked hesitantly. I paused, then nodded. "Yeah, show them what acceptance looks like." In the consultation room, I saw my past reflected in the scared parents and their confused daughter. But this time, the story could have a different ending. "I'm Dr. Parker," I said, sitting down. "And this is my mother. We have quite a story to tell you." Mother reached for my hand as we began to share our journey, not just of medical treatment, but of family, forgiveness, and finding purpose in pain. Later that night, as the center quieted down, I found Quincy in the garden. "Remember when you said sorry wasn't enough?" he asked. "Yeah." "Was this enough?" He gestured at the building behind us. "Did we finally get it right?" I thought about Sarah and her parents, about all the families who would find help here, about my own family's transformation. "It's a start," I said. "A good one." My pager buzzed. Emergency surgery needed. Some things never changed. "Duty calls," I told Quincy. "Try not to need any more brain surgery while I'm gone." "No promises." He hugged me. "Go be amazing, sis." Walking through the center's halls, I passed the wall of donor names. My family's among them. Not as a symbol of social status now, but as a commitment to change. My phone lit up with a text from Aunt Mia. "Proud of you, sweetheart. You turned pain into purpose." In the hospital wing, I prepared for surgery, my hands steady as always. The revenge I'd planned had transformed into something better. Not just healing bodies, but healing hearts, including my own. "Ready, Dr. Parker?" Sullivan asked, joining me in the OR. "Ready," I replied, knowing he meant more than just the surgery. The OR lights blazed to life, and I began another day of saving lives, this time with my whole family behind me.
The words hit like daggers as I cleared out my desk. "You're throwing away everything we built for you, Lucia. This food truck fantasy will be your biggest failure yet." My brother Gregory's voice dripped with the same condescension he'd perfected since childhood. "I'm Lucia, and at 28, I just quit my 6-figure tech job to start a Lebanese food truck. Crazy, right?" "That's what my family thinks anyway." "Actually, Greg, I'm throwing away everything you wanted for me," I said, dropping my company laptop into its box with a satisfying thunk. "There's a difference." He leaned against my now empty cubicle, arms crossed over his expensive suit. Mum's crying, you know. Dad can barely look at the family photos anymore. Drama queen much? I rolled my eyes, but my hands trembled as I packed away my last family photo, the one with Tita, my grandmother, teaching me how to roll grape leaves in her kitchen, the only one who'd understand what I'm doing now. My phone buzzed. Another text from Mom. Please reconsider. We didn't send you to Stanford for this. I switched it to silent as my friend Kendall appeared at my desk, grinning. Ready to ditch this corporate prison, boss? More than ready, I said, hoisting the box. The food truck's being delivered tomorrow. Gregory scoffed. A food truck, in Silicon Valley, where rent costs more than your yearly profit will ever be. Watch me, I said, turning to face him. One day, you'll be standing in line at Zesty Za'atar, waiting for my Za'atar manakish like everyone else. Zesty what? He laughed. You can't even name a business properly. Kendall stepped between us. Come on, Lucia. Your new business partner is freezing out here. As we walked toward the elevator, Gregory called out, When this fails, and it will fail, don't come crying to us. Outside, the crisp January air hit my face. Kendall squeezed my shoulder. You okay? I should be terrified, I said, looking up at the gleaming tech campus I was leaving behind. But I'm not. I'm excited. Your grandmother would be proud, Kendall said, helping me load the box into her car. You think? I pulled out my phone, showing her the photo I'd saved as my wallpaper, Tita's handwritten recipe for shish tawuk. She always said our family lost its soul when we stopped cooking together. Speaking of cooking, Kendall said, we need to test that marinade recipe tonight. The health inspection's at 9 tomorrow. My phone buzzed again. This time it was my sister Layla. Are you really doing this? Greg says you've lost your mind. They'll see, I said, putting the phone away. They'll all see. We drove to my apartment, where the smell of garlic and herbs greeted us. I'd been testing recipes all week, much to my roommate's delight. The kitchen counter was covered with containers of spices Tita had left me, za'atar, sumac, baharat, each one a piece of the heritage my family seemed eager to forget. Taste this, I said, offering Kendall a spoonful of Tham. Too much garlic? Perfect amount of garlic, she said, reaching for water. Your brother's an idiot if he thinks this won't sell. I stirred the marinade, remembering Teta's hands guiding mine, teaching me the exact moment to add each spice. You know what the worst part is? They act like I'm throwing away my education, like my business degree won't help me run this truck. Their loss, Kendall said, sampling the chicken. Holy shit, Lucia, this is incredible. My phone rang. Mom again. This time I answered. Lucia, Habibi, please, it's not too late to fix this. I know Richard in HR would take you back. Mom, stop. This isn't a mistake that needs fixing. This is my choice. But your future... My future is exactly what I'm building, I said, my voice stronger than I felt. Tita's recipes deserve better than being lost in some family cookbook nobody opens. Your grandmother didn't spend her life cooking so you could throw away. No, I cut her off. She spent her life cooking to keep our culture alive, to give us something to be proud of. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. After hanging up, I showed Kendall the business plan I'd spent months perfecting. Market analysis, cost projections, social media strategy, everything they thought I was too naive to consider. Tomorrow, I said, we prove them all wrong. Kendall raised her water glass. To Zesty Za'atar. To Tata, I added softly, touching my necklace, the last gift she gave me, a small gold pendant shaped like a cedar tree. In my mind, I could hear her voice. Habibi, our food tells our story. Never let anyone shame you for sharing it. Looking at the marinating chicken, the scattered spices, and my best friend's encouraging smile, I felt something settle in my chest. This wasn't just about proving my family wrong anymore. This was about proving myself right. Tomorrow couldn't come fast enough. Order up, 2 chicken shawarma wraps and a side of fattoush, I called out, wiping sweat from my forehead. 3 weeks in, and Zesty Za'atar was starting to build a rhythm.
Make that 3 shawarma wraps, Kendall shouted over the lunch rush noise. The tech bros are multiplying. The line stretched around the corner of the food truck lot, a mix of curious foodies and regular customers who'd found us through our Instagram page. The February sun beat down on the chrome exterior of our truck, making the small space feel like a sauna. Did you see the comments on our latest post? Kendall asked, expertly wrapping a shawarma. That video of you making manakish hit 10,000 views. Less social media, more garnishing, I laughed, but my heart swelled with pride. Each positive comment felt like a tiny victory against Gregory's predictions of failure. A familiar face appeared at the window. Marin, another food truck owner who'd become a fast friend. Girl, your line is longer than mine today. What's your secret? Generations of Lebanese grandmothers, I winked, handing her our specialty, za'atar manakish with extra olive oil, just how Teta made it. Speaking of family, Morin said between bites, your sister's been lurking on our Instagram. She's liked every post this week. My hands froze over the cutting board. Layla? Are you sure? Unless there's another Layla Lewis, 22, who looks exactly like your sister. Before I could process this, an elderly man approached the window. His eyes crinkled as he scanned our menu. Smells just like my mother's kitchen, he said, his accent thick with memories of home. Where was home? I asked, already reaching for the tome. Beirut, he smiled. Left in 75. Haven't had proper shawarma since. Then you're in luck, I said, preparing his order with extra care. This is my grandmother's recipe. She was from Beirut, too. When he took his first bite, his eyes welled up. Exactly like Mama's, he whispered. You've brought a piece of home to California, Habibti. The moment was interrupted by my phone buzzing. Mom, again. I let it go to voicemail. Your mother still not speaking to you? Kendall asked as we cleaned up during the afternoon lull. Oh, she's speaking, just not the words I want to hear. I played the latest voicemail on speaker. Lucia, your father's friend saw your food cart. Is this really how you want people to see our family? Like common street vendors? Kendall threw a piece of pita at my phone. Common street vendors who just made more in 3 weeks than their fancy son did in bonuses last quarter. She was right. Despite the startup costs, we were already turning a profit. Our social media following grew daily, and we'd been invited to cater several tech company lunches. Even the local food blog had featured us in their must-try food trucks list. Speaking of money, I said, pulling out my laptop, check this out. I showed Kendall our books. If we keep this up, we can start looking at a second truck by summer. No way. She hugged me, nearly knocking over a container of tahini. We're actually doing it. The afternoon rush started picking up when I spotted a familiar face in line. My sister Layla, trying to look inconspicuous in large sunglasses. What should I get? She asked quietly when she reached the window, like she was afraid someone might recognize her. Depends, I said, keeping my voice neutral. Are you here to spy for Greg? Or did you actually want to try the food? She pulled off her sunglasses, looking guilty. Both? Greg's been insufferable since you left. Keeps saying you'll come crawling back any day now. And what do you think? She glanced at the line behind her, then at our pristine truck with its professional branding. I think it smells amazing in here, like Tita's kitchen during Eid. Something in my chest loosened slightly. Try the shawarma platter, I said. Extra toom, just how you liked it as a kid. When I handed her the food, she hesitated. Lou, I'm sorry about before. About not standing up for you when you quit. Prove it, I said. Tell Greg exactly how good this food is. She took a bite and closed her eyes. Oh my God, this is better than Teta's. Don't tell Mom I said that. After she left, Kendall nudged me. Think she'll really tell Greg? Doesn't matter, I said, watching my sister disappear into the crowd, already taking photos of her food. The line speaks for itself. By closing time, we'd served over 200 customers and received 3 catering inquiries. As we cleaned up, I touched Teta's cedar pendant and smiled. Common street vendor, huh? I muttered. Just wait, Mama, just wait. You're late, Mum said as I walked into their house for our monthly family dinner. The familiar smell of her cooking filled the air, but something was off. She'd made Italian, not Lebanese. Food truck ran long, I said, kissing her cheek. Big corporate catering order. At least you're making money as a street vendor, Gregory called from the living room, not bothering to look up from his phone. Though probably not enough for a decent watch. I checked my sauce-stained t-shirt and shrugged. Actually, we're doing great, but you'd know that if you followed our Instagram. We hit 20,000 followers yesterday. Instagram followers don't pay bills, Dad said, emerging from his study. Richard still asks about you, you know. Says your position is open. My position is running my own successful business, I said, following them to the dining room. But thanks for the concern. Layla was already seated, looking uncomfortable. Since her visit to the truck last week, she'd been texting me regularly, asking for recipes and business advice. Now, she wouldn't meet my eyes. So, Mom said, serving the pasta, Gregory has some exciting news. My brother straightened his tie, grinning. I've been promoted to senior financial analyst, the youngest in the firm's history. Mabrook, Dad beamed. This calls for champagne. As he went to fetch the bottle, Gregory smirked at me. Some of us are still climbing the corporate ladder instead of climbing into food trucks. Funny, I said, twirling pasta on my fork. I catered lunch for your firm last week. Your colleague Marcus loved our food so much, he booked us for his wedding. You're catering weddings now? Layla perked up. Don't encourage her, Mom snapped. It's bad enough she's throwing away her education. Now she wants to be a wedding caterer too. What's wrong with catering weddings? I put down my fork. Tita catered weddings. Or did you forget that's how she put you through college? The table fell silent. Mum's face tightened. That was different. We had no choice back then. No, you're right. I had a choice. And I chose to honor her legacy instead of being ashamed of it. We're not ashamed, Dad said, returning with the champagne. We're concerned. This experiment of yours. Experiment, I laughed. We're making 5 figures a month. How's that for an experiment? Gregory choked on his wine. You're lying. I pulled out my phone, showing him our books. Check the numbers yourself, Mr. Senior Financial Analyst. Or better yet, ask your colleague Marcus why he chose us over that fancy catering company you recommended. That's actually impressive, Layla said quietly. Layla, Mom warned. No, Mom, it is impressive. Have you even tried her food? It's better than... Than what? I challenged. Better than Tita's. Better than the food you pretend doesn't exist when your country club friends come over. That's enough. Dad slammed his hand on the table. We're here to celebrate Gregory's success, not your street food venture. Just then, my phone buzzed. An email from the Bay Area Food Festival. I opened it, my hands shaking. Oh my God, I whispered. What now? Gregory rolled his eyes. Health department finally shut you down. No, I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. I just got invited to be a featured vendor at the Bay Area Food Festival. The waiting list is usually 3 years long. The one they do at the waterfront. Layla's eyes widened. Lou, that's huge. Mom snatched my phone, reading the email. Her face paled. This is a mistake. They must not know. Know what, Mom? That I'm not some fancy restaurant, that I'm just a street vendor, or that I'm your daughter, embarrassing you by cooking the food you grew up eating. Lucia, Dad started. No, I want to know. What exactly are you ashamed of? The fact that I'm successful, or the fact that I'm successful doing something you look down on? Gregory scoffed. Success is relative. 1 good month doesn't... 6 good months, I corrected him. 6 months of proving you all wrong. 6 months of watching people line up for hours to taste the food you think is beneath you. 6 months of carrying on Teta's legacy while you all try to forget it. I grabbed my bag and headed for the door. Layla called after me. Lou, wait. You know where to find me, I said over my shoulder. Just look for the line of people who aren't ashamed to eat our food. As I reached my car, another email came through. This one from a local news station, wanting to feature zesty za'atar in their Hidden Gems segment. I touched Tita's pendant and smiled through my tears. "Watch me now," I whispered, starting the engine. "Just watch me now." Behind me, through the dining room window, I could see my family still seated at the table, their celebratory dinner forgotten. Layla was standing, gesturing at something on her phone, probably our Instagram page. For the first time since I'd started this journey, their opinions didn't matter. I had a food festival to prepare for. A charity event? Kendall raised her eyebrows as we prepped for the morning rush. On top of the food festival prep, "Hear me out," I said, chopping parsley for tabbouleh. "Remember Maria, the single mom who comes by every Tuesday? She gave me this idea." Marin, perched on our prep counter, nodded enthusiastically. "The one with the twins? She's always sharing our posts in her single mom support group." "Exactly. These women are working multiple jobs, raising kids alone, and still trying to put healthy food on the table." I wiped my hands on my apron. "We could do a special event. All proceeds go to their support network." "Plus," Kendall grinned, "it'll drive Gregory absolutely insane to see you succeeding and being charitable while he's just succeeding." "This isn't about Gregory," I protested, but couldn't hide my smile. "Okay, maybe it's a little about Gregory." My phone buzzed. A text from Layla. "Need to talk. Coming by the truck today. Don't tell Mom." Speaking of family drama, I showed them the message. "Your sister's been commenting on every post lately," Marin observed. "Even defended us against some troll last week." Before I could respond, a familiar voice called through the service window. "Is this a private meeting or can anyone join?" I spun around to find Amanda, my former colleague from the tech company, grinning at me. "Amanda, what are you doing here?" "Besides craving your shawarma, I'm here about the food festival." She pulled out a business card. "I'm on the organizing committee this year." My heart skipped. "You're the one who recommended us? After tasting your food at Marcus's wedding, how could I not?" She leaned in. "But that's not all. We want to feature you in the festival's promotional campaign. Your story's exactly what we're looking for. Corporate dropout turned successful entrepreneur, preserving cultural heritage through food. And pissing off her family in the process," Kendall added helpfully. Amanda laughed. "That too. The whole proving them wrong angle. People eat that up. No pun intended." Just then, Layla appeared behind Amanda, looking nervous in her designer suit. "Lou, can we talk?" "Perfect timing," I said. "We're planning a charity event. Want to help?" Layla glanced around uncertainly, then straightened her shoulders. "Actually, yes, and I might have an idea." We gathered around our tiny prep table as Layla pulled out her tablet. "So, I may have mentioned your success to some people at work. Our marketing team is looking for local businesses to partner with for community outreach." "Hold up," I interrupted. "You want your fancy marketing firm to partner with your embarrassing food truck sister?" "Stop it," she said firmly. "I was wrong, okay? We were all wrong. And I want to help make it right." Amanda clapped her hands. "This is perfect. A corporate-sponsored charity event right before the food festival. The press will love it." My head spun. "Press?" "Trust me," Amanda winked. "I know some people at the local stations. Between this and the festival feature, you'll be the talk of the Bay Area food scene." Marin squeezed my arm. "Think about it, Lou. This could help so many people." I looked at Layla, really looked at her. Gone was the condescending sister who'd sided with Gregory. In her place was someone who seemed genuinely excited about my success. "Okay," I said, "but we do this my way. No corporate sanitizing. This is about real food and real people." "Agreed," Layla nodded. "And I want to help cook, like we used to with Tita." The prep table went quiet. Kendall dropped a spoon. "You want to cook?" I asked carefully. "You haven't cooked since Teta died, I know." Layla's voice softened. "Maybe it's time to change that." Amanda cleared her throat. "Well, this just got even better. Sister reunited with sister through family recipes. The media will—" "No," I cut her off. "This part stays private. Some things aren't for publicity." Layla's eyes welled up. Thank you. We spent the next hour planning. The event would feature traditional Lebanese dishes, each with a story connecting it to the community we were helping. Layla's firm would handle promotion and matching donations. Maren offered her truck as additional kitchen space. One more thing, Layla said as she was leaving. Greg knows I'm here. He might tell Mom and Dad. Let him, I said, touching Tita's pendant. They can't stop this anymore. After everyone left, Kendall bumped my shoulder. You okay? Better than okay, I smiled, pulling out Teta's recipe book. We're going to need more za'atar. My phone buzzed again, Gregory this time. What did you say to Layla? She's lost her mind. I typed back, actually, big brother, I think she just found it. See you at the event. Turning back to the prep table, I felt lighter than I had in months. The charity event, the food festival, Layla's support, everything was falling into place. And somewhere, I knew Tita was watching, probably laughing at how her recipes were still bringing the family together, whether they liked it or not. You're doing it wrong, I said, watching Layla struggle with the grape leaves. Tita would be rolling in her grave seeing you roll these like burritos. Well, I'm sorry my grape leaf rolling skills got rusty during my years of corporate slavery, she laughed, trying again. We were in my apartment's kitchen, practicing for the charity event. Here, I demonstrated the technique. Tighter at the start, then gentle as you roll, like swaddling a baby. You sound just like her, Layla said softly. Remember how she'd smack our hands when we tried to sneak the finished ones? Only because you kept eating all the vegetarian ones before the meat ones were done. The doorbell rang, Maren arriving with more supplies. Ladies, the local news crew confirmed for next week. They want to film the prep and interview some of the single mums we're helping. Perfect, I said, checking my phone. Maria's bringing 5 other mums to help prep. They're all excited to learn the recipes. Speaking of excitement, Layla cleared her throat. Mum called me this morning. My hands froze mid-roll. And? She saw the event posting online. Dad too. They're coming. The grape leaf in my hand tore. What? They want to see what all the fuss is about. Greg's coming too. Maren whistled low. Full family reunion, huh? Should I bring popcorn? It's fine, I said, though my voice shook. They can come. They can see exactly what their street vendor daughter has built. My phone buzzed, a text from Mom. Your father and I will attend your event. Please dress appropriately. Dress appropriately, I read aloud. What does she think I'm going to wear? A garbage bag? Actually, Layla pulled out her phone, showing me a website. I might have an idea about that. The page showed modern, professional chef's coats with Middle Eastern designs. They're hand-embroidered by immigrant women in Oakland, she explained. Part of that community outreach program I mentioned. Layla. I touched the screen, tracing the delicate patterns. These are beautiful. Already ordered one, with Teta's name embroidered in Arabic above the heart. I hugged her, getting flour all over her expensive blouse. When did you become so thoughtful? Probably around the time I realized my little food truck sister was braver than all of us combined. Maren cleared her throat. Hate to break up the sister moment, but we've got 50 pounds of potatoes to peel for the batata hara. We spent the next few hours prepping, testing recipes, and finalizing the event layout. Layla's grape leaves gradually improved, though she still couldn't match Teta's perfect rolls. The news crew wants to know our angle, Maren said, reading an email. They're thinking, corporate sister versus food truck sister, a story of redemption. No way, Layla and I said simultaneously. This isn't about family drama, I added. It's about community, about feeding people who need it, about... I touched my pendant. About legacy. Speaking of legacy, Layla pulled out an old photo from her purse. Found this in Mom's albums. The photo showed Tita at a community dinner, surrounded by women learning to cook. Her smile was radiant as she demonstrated how to shape man-oosh. Look at the date, Layla pointed. 1982, I read. Wait, Isn't that when Mum was in college? Yeah. Tata was teaching cooking classes to new immigrants, helping them feel at home. The money helped pay Mum's tuition. My eyes stung. She never told us. Maybe she was trying to forget, Layla said. But I think that's why this bothers her so much. You're doing exactly what Teta did, and it reminds her of where she came from. Where we all came from, I corrected, whether they want to admit it or not. My phone chimed with another message, from Gregory this time. Dad's asking about investment opportunities in food truck fleets. What did you do to this family? I showed the message to Layla, who burst out laughing. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. Ladies, Marin interrupted, focus. We have 3 days to prepare food for 200 people, coordinate with the news crew, and somehow survive a family reunion. Less laughing, more cooking. But as we worked into the evening, the laughter continued. Layla shared stories about Gregory's failed attempts to cook for his girlfriend. Marin taught us curse words in Spanish. Even Mom texted again, this time asking if she should bring Tita's special serving platters. You know what? I said, surveying our progress. Let them come. Let them all come. They'll see exactly what food truck success looks like. They'll see what family looks like, Layla corrected, finally mastering a perfect grape leaf roll, even if it takes some time to remember. Looking at my sister, covered in flour and beaming with pride over her grape leaves, I realized she was right. This wasn't just about proving them wrong anymore. It was about showing them who we really were, who we'd always been. 3 days to go. Bring it on. They're here, Kendall hissed, nudging me as I adjusted my new chef's coat. Through the crowd, I spotted my parents and Gregory, looking painfully overdressed for a food truck charity event. Keep cooking, I told the team of single moms working alongside us. This changes nothing. The event space buzzed with energy. Both food trucks were serving at full capacity, with lines wrapping around the block. Local news crews circulated, interviewing guests and filming the cooking demonstrations. Lucia, Mom's voice carried across the prep area. She stood awkwardly, clutching Teta's antique serving platters. Where should I put these? Over here, Layla jumped in, guiding her to the display table. Look, Mom, we're using Teta's recipes, just like she taught us. Mom's eyes swept over the scene, the women cooking, the crowds enjoying the food, the professional setup. Her expression wavered between pride and uncertainty. Is that Zata Manushi? A small voice piped up. One of Maria's twins stood in front of Mom, pointing at the platter she held. Yes, Mom answered automatically. My mother. She used to make it every morning. Lucia taught my mommy how to make it. The little girl beamed. Now we have it for breakfast too. I watched Mom's face soften as Maria approached. Your daughter's food truck changed our lives, Maria told her. Now I can cook healthy meals for my girls, and the support group has become like family. Before Mom could respond, the news crew descended. Mrs. Lewis, how does it feel seeing your daughter's success? Mom straightened her shoulders, years of social training kicking in. But before she could speak, Gregory cut in. Actually, our family has always supported local businesses, he said smoothly, stepping into frame. We're proud to see Lucia carrying on our grandmother's legacy. I nearly dropped my spatula. Kendall muttered, The audacity. Is that so? The reporter turned to me. Lucia, your brother seems very supportive. Has it always been this way? I locked eyes with Gregory, seeing the challenge there. He thought he could rewrite our story with one smooth interview. Actually, I said, this event is about something bigger than family drama. It's about community. Every woman here has a story about feeding their family against the odds. That's the legacy worth talking about. The reporter's eyes lit up. Can you tell us more about these women? I gestured to Maria and the others. Why don't you ask them yourself? They're the real story here. As the crew moved away, Dad approached the truck. Impressive setup, he said gruffly. Very professional. Thanks, I said, continuing to cook. Did you try the food yet? We were waiting for a good moment. "The food's getting cold, Brandon," Mom called out, and I noticed she was already sampling the hummus with Maria's twins. "This tastes just like your mother's." "Here," I handed Dad a plate of shish tawuk. "Teta's recipe, exactly how she made it for your law school graduation." His hands shook slightly as he took a bite. For a moment he was silent. "Well?" I asked. "It's perfect," he whispered. "How did you remember?" "I paid attention," I said simply. Every Sunday in her kitchen, I paid attention. The event continued to buzz around us. Layla was teaching a group of women how to roll grape leaves, somewhat ironically, given her recent lessons. Gregory hovered near the news crew, occasionally glancing at the growing crowd with poorly concealed surprise. "Lucia!" Amanda from the festival committee waved frantically. "The mayor just arrived. He wants to try everything." As I prepared a tasting platter, I caught sight of my reflection in the truck's window. The embroidered chef's coat gleamed under the lights, Teta's name in Arabic script right above my heart. Below it, the cedar tree pendant she gave me caught the sunlight. "Your grandmother would be proud," a voice said. I turned to find Mom standing there, her eyes wet. Not just of the food, but of this. She gestured to the women cooking, the families eating, the community gathered together. "Really?" I asked. "Because last month I was just a street vendor embarrassing the family." "I was wrong," she said quietly. "We were all wrong. This is exactly what she would have wanted." Before I could respond, Brandon Young himself, my father, stepped up to the truck window. "Lucia," he said formally, "I'd like to discuss a business proposition." "Dad, I'm not coming back to corporate." "No," he interrupted. "I'd like to invest in your expansion plans." The kitchen fell silent. Even Kendall stopped cooking. "What?" I managed. "Your brother did some research. Food truck empires are apparently quite profitable when properly managed. And with the festival coming up," I held up my hand. "Let me stop you right there. I built this myself. Without family money, without family support. I'm not changing that now." He nodded slowly. "I understand. But perhaps we could discuss it over dinner. Your mother could teach me how to make that hummus properly." Behind him, Mom was already exchanging recipes with Maria. "We'll see," I said, but I was smiling. "Right now, I have customers to feed." And they were finally among them. "It's time for the speech," Kendall whispered, nudging me toward the small stage we'd set up. The evening sun cast long shadows across the event space, where hundreds of people still mingled, ate, and shared stories. "I hate public speaking," I muttered, adjusting my chef's coat. "Too bad," Maureen grinned. "The news crews are waiting. Make it good." I took the microphone, heart pounding. My family sat in the front row, Mom still trading recipes with Maria, Dad taking notes on his phone, Gregory looking simultaneously impressed and uncomfortable. Layla gave me a thumbs up from where she stood with the other volunteers. "When I started Zesty Zaatar," I began, "people told me I was throwing my life away. Trading a corporate career for a food truck? It seemed crazy." The crowd quieted, listening. But here's the thing about food. It's never just about feeding people. It's about story, about heritage, about the grandmother who taught you how to fold grape leaves just right, or the mother who wakes up early to make man-ushi for her children. I touched Teta's pendant. My grandmother fed people because that's how she showed love. She taught cooking classes to immigrant women because she remembered what it was like to be new in this country, missing the tastes of home. Every recipe she passed down wasn't just about ingredients, it was about belonging. In the audience, Mom wiped her eyes. Today, when I watch Maria teach her daughters the recipes they learned from our truck, or see women from our support group sharing cooking tips, I realize something. Success isn't measured in corporate titles or corner offices. Gregory shifted in his seat. Success is measured in the lives you touch, the communities you build, the traditions you keep alive. I gestured to the women who'd been cooking alongside us. Every woman here has a story. Sarah works 3 jobs and still makes time to cook traditional meals for her kids. Amira started a small catering business after learning recipes here. Maria's twins now bring homemade Lebanese snacks to school and teach their friends the names in Arabic. The news cameras moved closer as I continued. Some people look at a food truck and see something small, something common. I met Gregory's eyes. But I look at this truck and see my grandmother's legacy. I see women supporting women. I see culture being preserved and passed on. I see strength. Layla was openly crying now, and even Gregory looked affected. To everyone who said I was making a mistake, thank you. Your doubt made me work harder. Your dismissal made me more determined. And your absence made room for this amazing community to become my new family. I raised my glass. To all the women here today who feed their families with love, who keep their traditions alive, who work impossible hours and still make time to learn new recipes. This success belongs to you too. And to my grandmother, who taught me that food is love, and love is revolution. This is all because of you. The crowd erupted in applause. Maria's twins ran up to hug me. Through tears, I saw Dad stand up, clapping with genuine pride on his face. But it was Gregory who reached the stage first. Lou, he said, taking the microphone. I need to say something. The crowd hushed. Kendall moved protectively closer to me. I was wrong, he said simply. We were all wrong. We measured success by our standards, not yours. But looking around today, he gestured to the thriving event, the news crews, the happy families. This is success by any measure. Mom stood up. May I? She took the microphone with trembling hands. My mother, your tita, used to say that food is memory. When she died, I tried to forget because remembering hurt too much. But watching you today, Lucia, you didn't just remember. You brought her back to life. You made her proud. I couldn't hold back the tears anymore. Layla joined us on stage, wrapping an arm around me. And you, Mom turned to the crowd, all of you who supported my daughter when we didn't, thank you. Thank you for seeing what we were too blind to see. The news crews were eating it up, but I barely noticed them. For the first time since starting this journey, I felt truly seen by my family. Amanda rushed to the stage. Lucia, the festival committee just called. They want to feature Zesty Za'atar as the headline vendor next month. More applause, more tears, more hugs. As the evening wound down, I found myself sitting with my family, sharing plates of food just like we used to at Teta's house. Gregory was actually helping clean up. Dad was discussing expansion plans with Maria's husband, who owned a restaurant supply company. Mom and Layla were teaching the twins how to properly wrap stuffed grape leaves. You did it, Habibi, Kendall said, sitting beside me. You really did it. I watched my old family and new family blend together, sharing food and stories as the sun set over Silicon Valley. Success tasted like za'atar and felt like home. No, I corrected her, touching Teta's pendant one last time. We did it, all of us. And somewhere I knew Teta was smiling. Perfect weather for the festival, Kendall said, as we set up our featured vendor booth at the Bay Area Food Festival. The morning fog was just lifting, revealing the waterfront location where thousands would soon gather. Almost too perfect, I agreed, arranging Teta's platters on our display. The festival organizers had given us prime positioning, complete with a demonstration kitchen and seating area. Need help with those? Gregory appeared, wearing a Zesty Za'atar t-shirt that still made me do a double take. He'd been showing up regularly at the truck since the charity event, learning recipes between his financial analyst shifts. You can start the marinade, I said, just like I showed you. Don't let him near the tomb, Layla called out, arriving with Mom. They carried baskets of fresh herbs from Mum's garden. She'd started growing them specifically for the truck. Very funny, Gregory muttered, but he was smiling. One batch of garlic sauce goes wrong. Wrong is an understatement, Kendall laughed. That sauce could have stripped paint. The festival grounds buzzed with activity as other vendors set up. Several waved to us. We'd become part of the local food community, sharing tips and supporting each other's businesses. "Look who's here," Mum pointed. Maria and her twins approached, wearing matching aprons. "Ready to help," the girls chorused. They'd become regular fixtures at the truck, learning to cook alongside their mother. "Perfect timing," I said. "We need our best grape leaf rollers." Dad arrived last, carrying a surprise, Tita's old wooden rolling pin. "Found this in the attic," he said. "Thought you might want it for the demonstration." I ran my fingers over the worn wood, feeling the grooves from years of use. "It's perfect." The festival opened, and crowds poured in. Our line quickly became the longest, thanks partly to the charity event publicity. The news crew's feature had gone viral, drawing foodies from across the state. "Is it true?" a woman asked as I served her shawarma. "Did you really leave tech to start this?" "Best decision I ever made," I said, catching Gregory's eye as he expertly plated hummus. "Even better decision was letting us help," he added, making me laugh. The demonstration kitchen segment arrived faster than expected. I stood before the crowd, Teta's rolling pin in hand, ready to share her recipes. "Before we start," I said into the microphone, "I want to share something. This rolling pin belonged to my grandmother, who taught me that food is more than sustenance. It's story, it's family, it's love." The audience leaned in, captivated. She also taught me that success isn't about proving people wrong. It's about proving yourself right. So today, I'm not just teaching you how to make manouche. I'm teaching you how to believe in your own path, even when others don't see it yet. Mom stepped forward. "And sometimes," she added, taking the microphone, "those who doubt you the most just need time to remember their own forgotten dreams." Together, we demonstrated Teta's techniques, sharing stories between steps. The audience asked questions, took notes, shared their own family recipes. It felt like one of Teta's cooking classes, expanded to include hundreds. Near the end of the day, Amanda rushed over with news. The festival committee voted. Zesty Za'atar won Best in Show. The celebration that followed blended everything I loved: family, food, community. Gregory high-fived Kendall. Layla hugged Maria's twins. Mom taught a group of young women how to properly blend za'atar, while Dad proudly filmed everything. "One more surprise," Layla announced, unveiling a frame. Inside was the photo of Teta teaching her cooking class, alongside a recent photo of me doing the same at the charity event. Below them, a news article headline read, "Legacy of Love: How One Food Truck Rebuilt a Family Through Food." "This belongs in the truck," Mom said softly, next to her recipes. As the festival wound down, we gathered for a family meal. Not just my biological family, but the entire extended family we'd built. Maria and her girls, Kendall and Maren, regular customers who'd become friends, all sharing dishes, swapping stories, building connections. "You know what this means," Gregory said, helping pack up. "You've officially surpassed my corporate success." "It was never a competition," I replied, but he shook his head. "Maybe not for you, but watching you succeed your way, it made me question everything I thought I knew about success." Mom overheard and joined us. "Your tita used to say, 'Feed the body, nourish the soul.' I forgot that for a while. Thank you for remembering." Looking around at our expanded family, at the award-winning food truck that started it all, at Teta's rolling pin now passed to a new generation, I felt complete. Not because I'd proven them wrong, but because we'd all found our way back to what mattered most. "So," Dad called out, "who's hungry for dinner?" Everyone raised their hands, laughing, ready for another meal together. Because that's what family does. We gather, we eat, we love, we grow. Just like Tita taught us. Just like she always knew we would.
The crystal wine glass shattered against the wall behind me, sending shards of glass tinkling across the marble floor of the dining room. I didn't flinch. After 3 years of marriage into the Marshall family, I'd grown accustomed to Eugene's temper tantrums. "My name is Fatima, and I'm what my father-in-law calls just a nurse." The way he spits those words out, you'd think I'd admitted to being a serial killer rather than someone who saves lives for a living. How dare you question my judgment? Eugene's face had turned an alarming shade of red as he glared at my husband, Aston. 25 years as chief of surgery, and you think you know better than me about the value of hospital staff? I dabbed my napkin against my lips, fighting to maintain my composure. The weekly family dinner had devolved into chaos because I'd mentioned helping save a patient that morning. Apparently, that was above my station. Dad, times have changed, Aston said, his hand finding mine under the table. Nurses are the backbone of healthcare. Fatima's skills. Skills? Eugene barked out a laugh. Changing bedpans and taking temperatures? Please, son. Your mother and I didn't put you through medical school so you could marry someone who does a servant's job. Patricia, my mother-in-law, stared intently at her plate, while Savannah, my sister-in-law, shifted uncomfortably in her chair. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a scalpel. That servant saved a man's life today when his heart stopped, I said quietly, meeting Eugene's eyes. While the doctor was still flipping through his charts, I noticed the signs and started CPR. Eugene's lip curled. Know your place, girl. You assist. You don't save. That's enough! Aston's fist came down hard on the mahogany table, making the silverware jump. I won't sit here and listen to you disrespect my wife anymore. Your wife? Eugene sneered. The girl who couldn't even get into medical school? Who settled for— I didn't settle for anything, I interrupted, my voice steady despite my racing heart. I chose nursing because I wanted to work directly with patients, to be there for them in their darkest moments. Something you seem to have forgotten about healthcare, Eugene. The room fell silent. Even Patricia looked up from her plate, eyes wide. Nobody interrupted Eugene Marshall. How dare you lecture me about healthcare? He sputtered. I built this family's legacy. The Marshall name means something in medical circles, and you— And I what? I stood up slowly, placing my napkin beside my half-eaten dinner. Tarnish it by actually caring about patients? By doing the work you consider beneath you? Savannah let out a small gasp. Aston squeezed my hand, a silent show of support. Get out, Eugene growled. Get out of my house. Gladly, I turned to Aston. I'll wait in the car. As I walked toward the door, I heard chairs scraping against the floor and Aston's voice rising in argument with his father. I paused in the doorway, looking back at Eugene. You know what the difference is between us, Eugene? When my patients thank me, it's not because of my last name. It's because I was there, holding their hand when they were scared, cleaning them up when they couldn't do it themselves, fighting for them when they couldn't fight for themselves. That's not being a servant. That's being a nurse. Later that night, as Aston and I lay in bed, he pulled me close. I'm sorry about my father, he whispered into my hair. Don't be, I replied, tracing patterns on his chest. He's the one who should be sorry. Still, the things he said— He'll understand someday, I said, thinking about the countless times I'd seen arrogant doctors humbled by circumstance. Karma has a way of teaching people the value of those they look down on. That sounds ominous, Aston chuckled. I smiled in the darkness. Not ominous, just true. Everyone needs a nurse eventually, Aston. Even the great Eugene Marshall. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. A text from Ivy, my best friend and fellow nurse. Rough night at the family dinner? The usual, I typed back. Eugene being Eugene, but I stood my ground this time. Good girl, he'll learn one day. Nobody looks down on nurses when they're flat on their back in a hospital bed. I put my phone away thinking about Ivy's words. She was right, of course. But as I drifted off to sleep, I couldn't shake the feeling that Eugene's lesson might come sooner rather than later. Call it nurse's intuition, but something told me change was coming to the Marshall family, whether they were ready for it or not. Code Blue, room 415. Code Blue, room 415. The overhead announcement sent me sprinting down the hospital corridor, my shoes squeaking against the freshly waxed floor. I burst into the room to find an elderly patient in cardiac arrest, his monitor screaming its warning. Starting compressions, I called out, immediately positioning myself over his chest. 1, 2, 3, 4. The rhythm was muscle memory after years of practice. Ivy rushed in behind me with the crash cart. BP's dropping fast, she reported, already preparing the defibrillator. Where's the doctor? I asked between compressions. Dr. Williams is in surgery. They're paging someone else. I nodded, continuing CPR. The patient's face was turning blue. Come on, sir, I muttered. Stay with us. The door burst open again, and to my surprise, Leandro, our hospital administrator, rushed in. He'd been a nurse before moving into administration, and in emergencies, he never hesitated to jump in. What's his status? Leandro asked, pulling on gloves. No pulse, BP critically low, Ivy reported. Defibrillator ready. Clear, I called out, moving back as Leandro administered the shock. The patient's body jerked, but the monitor continued its ominous tone. Again, I resumed compressions while Ivy administered epinephrine. 3 more shocks and 15 minutes of CPR later, the steady beep of a normal heart rhythm filled the room. I slumped back, exhausted but relieved. Nice work, Fatima, Leandro said, patting my shoulder. You kept him alive until we could get his heart started again. I was wiping sweat from my forehead when Dr. Thompson finally arrived, looking flustered. What happened here? Patient went into cardiac arrest, I reported professionally. We performed CPR and administered 4 shocks. He's stable now. The doctor barely acknowledged me, turning instead to check the monitors himself. Typical. Later in the break room, Ivy handed me a coffee. You were amazing in there. Did you see how fast you responded? Just doing my job, I said, but I couldn't help smiling. Unlike some people who couldn't be bothered to show up until after the crisis was over. Speaking of people who don't appreciate nurses, Ivy stirred her coffee. How are things with the father-in-law from hell? I groaned. Eugene? Still his charming self. You should have seen him at dinner last night, throwing wine glasses like a toddler having a tantrum. Girl, I don't know how you handle it. If my father-in-law treated me like that. Fatima, Leandro appeared in the doorway. The patient from 415 is asking for you. His family's there too. In the patient's room, I found him awake and alert, surrounded by tearful relatives. His face lit up when he saw me. There she is, he exclaimed weakly. My guardian angel. This is the nurse who saved my life. His daughter hugged me tightly. Thank you so much. Dad would have died if you hadn't acted so quickly. I was just doing my job, I said, checking his vitals. How are you feeling, Mr. Roberts? Like I got kicked in the chest by a horse, he chuckled. But I'm alive, thanks to you. As I finished my checks, my phone buzzed. A text from Savannah. Emergency. Dad collapsed at the clinic. They're bringing him to your hospital. My blood ran cold. I showed the message to Ivy, who'd just walked in. Oh shit, she whispered. What are you going to do? Before I could answer, another text came through from Aston. Dad's being admitted to your floor. I know it's awkward, but you're the best nurse there. Please help him. Ivy squeezed my arm. Karma works fast, doesn't it? This isn't funny, I hissed, but my hands were shaking. What if something goes wrong? What if... Stop, Ivy said firmly. You're a professional. You just saved a man's life while doctors were nowhere to be found. Eugene needs a nurse right now, not a doctor. He needs you. Leandro appeared again, looking concerned. Fatima, we have a VIP patient coming in, Dr. Eugene Marshall. Given your connection, I'll take him, I said, straightening my scrubs. I'm the charge nurse on this floor, and I'm not going to let personal issues interfere with patient care. Leandro nodded approvingly. That's why you're one of our best. The paramedics are 5 minutes out. As I walked to the emergency entrance, my heart was racing. After years of Eugene's contempt, fate had handed me exactly what I'd wished for, a chance to show him exactly what a nurse could do. But as I watched the ambulance pull up, lights flashing, I realized this wasn't about revenge anymore. This was about proving something to myself. Time to show you what a servant can do, Eugene, I whispered, pushing through the emergency room doors. The emergency room doors burst open as the paramedics wheeled Eugene in. His face was ashen, a stark contrast to the angry red I'd seen at dinner just days ago. Patricia hurried alongside the gurney, clutching her husband's hand. BP 160-100. Possible stroke symptoms, the paramedic reported. Patient experienced sudden weakness on the left side and slurred speech approximately 40 minutes ago. I switched into professional mode instantly. Get him to CT stat, I'll alert neurology. Eugene's eyes found mine, widening with recognition. For the first time since I'd known him, I saw fear in them. No, he slurred, trying to push my hands away as I checked his pupils. Not her. Eugene, stop it, Patricia snapped, surprising everyone. Let her help you. Aston rushed in, still wearing his surgical scrubs. Dad, what happened? He looked at me. Fatima, what's his status? Possible stroke. We're taking him for imaging now. I turned to the other nurse. Start the stroke protocol. I want those results ASAP. As we moved Eugene to CT, he kept trying to speak, his words coming out garbled. I leaned closer. Don't want servant. Well, this servant is trying to save your life, I said calmly, adjusting his IV. So lie still and let me do my job. The CT results confirmed our fears. Eugene was having an ischemic stroke. The next hours were a blur of activity as we administered TPA and monitored him closely. I stayed by his side, checking his vitals every 15 minutes, watching for any changes. You're doing great, Ivy whispered during a brief handoff. How are you holding up? I'm fine, I replied, updating Eugene's chart. He's just another patient who needs help. Bullshit, she said, but you're handling it like a boss. Around midnight, Leandro stopped by to check on the situation. Eugene had stabilized, but he was still weak on his left side. Dr. Thompson wants to transfer him to a private room, Leandro said. Any preference on who takes over his care? I'll keep him, I said firmly. I'm already familiar with his case. Leandro raised an eyebrow. Are you sure, given the personal situation? I'm sure. I met his gaze. Unless you think I can't remain professional? No, I trust your judgment. He paused. Just be careful. These family situations can get complicated. As if on cue, Patricia approached us, looking exhausted. Fatima, could I speak with you? We stepped into the family room, where she surprised me by pulling me into a tight hug. Thank you, she whispered. The doctors said if he hadn't received treatment so quickly. She pulled back, wiping her eyes. I know how he's treated you. No one would blame you if you'd stepped away. That's not who I am, I said simply. No, it's not. She smiled sadly. Maybe that's what he needs to see. A commotion from Eugene's room interrupted us. We rushed back to find him trying to get out of bed, fighting against Aston's restraining hands. Dad, stop. You'll hurt yourself. Want different nurse, Eugene managed to say, glaring at me. I stepped forward, my voice firm. Mr. Marshall, you're having a stroke. Every minute counts. You can request a different nurse once you're stable, but right now, I'm what you've got. So please, lie back down before you make things worse. The use of his formal name seemed to shock him. For a moment, we stared at each other, the mighty surgeon and the lowly nurse, until finally he slumped back against the pillows. That's better, I said, checking his IV. Now, can you squeeze my hand? Good. And follow my finger with your eyes. As I performed the neurological checks, I felt everyone watching. Aston, Patricia, even Savannah, who'd arrived sometime during the chaos. The room was thick with unspoken words and shifting dynamics. Your left side is showing improvement, I reported professionally. But you need rest. Visiting hours are over. Everyone out, except immediate family. I'm staying, Patricia said firmly, settling into the chair beside his bed. As the others filed out, Aston caught my arm. You don't have to do this, he whispered. We can get another nurse. I watched Eugene, now lying quietly with his eyes closed, looking vulnerable in his hospital gown. Yes, I do, I replied. Because right now, he doesn't need a daughter-in-law to resent or a servant to despise. He needs a nurse. And like it or not, that's exactly what I am. Aston kissed my forehead. You're amazing, you know that? Go get some rest, I said, checking Eugene's monitors one more time. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. As I settled in for my night shift, I couldn't help but think about Karma's strange sense of humor. Eugene had spent years looking down on my profession, and now his life literally depended on it. But as I watched him sleep, I realized this wasn't about winning or losing anymore. It was about something much more important. the fundamental truth about what it means to care for another human being, regardless of who they are or how they've treated you. "Time for your morning exercises," I announced, entering Eugene's room with a physical therapy assistant. 3 days had passed since his stroke, and though his speech was improving, his left side remained weak. Eugene scowled at me. "Where's the doctor?" "Dr. Thompson will be here for rounds later," I said, helping him sit up. "Right now, you need to work on your mobility." "Don't want you," he muttered, but his protest lacked its usual venom. "Well, that's unfortunate," I replied cheerfully, "because I'm going to help you stand whether you like it or not, unless you'd prefer to stay in that bed forever?" Patricia, who hadn't left his side for 3 days, stifled a laugh. "Eugene, stop being difficult." With careful movements, we got him to his feet. His left leg trembled with the effort, and his face flushed with embarrassment as he clutched the walker. "Small steps," I instructed, supporting his weak side, "just to the door and back." "I know how to walk," he snapped. "Clearly," I said dryly as he stumbled. "That's why you nearly face-planted just now." Savannah, who'd been quietly watching from the corner, stepped forward. "Dad, please, let Fatima help you." He shot her a betrayed look but allowed me to steady him as we slowly made our way across the room. Halfway there, his legs began to shake more violently. "I can't," he gasped. "Yes, you can," I said firmly. 3 more steps. Count them with me." To everyone's surprise, he did. When we finally reached the door, sweat beaded on his forehead, but there was a glimmer of triumph in his eyes. "Good job," I said, helping him turn around. "Now back to bed." The return journey was harder. Halfway there, his left leg gave out completely. I caught him before he could fall, my training kicking in automatically. "I've got you," I said softly, bearing his weight until he could steady himself. For a moment, our eyes met, and I saw something shift in his expression, a crack in the armor of his prejudice. Later that afternoon, I was checking his vitals when Dr. Thompson arrived with his entourage of residents. "Ah, Eugene," he said jovially. "How's our star patient?" "Ask the nurse," Eugene replied, surprising everyone. "She's been here all morning." Dr. Thompson turned to me, eyebrows raised. I gave my report professionally, detailing Eugene's progress, his morning exercises, and my concerns about his blood pressure readings. "Excellent work," Dr. Thompson said. "You're lucky to have such an attentive nurse, Eugene." Eugene didn't respond, but I caught him watching me thoughtfully as I adjusted his medication. During lunch, Ivy joined me in the break room. "So, how's the dragon doing?" "Better," I said, picking at my salad. "He actually let me help him walk today without threatening to have me fired." "Progress!" Ivy grinned. "Next thing you know, he'll be admitting nurses are actually human beings." "Let's not get crazy," I laughed. A commotion in the hallway interrupted our break. I rushed out to find Eugene trying to reach the bathroom on his own, Patricia hovering anxiously nearby. "He refused to call for help," she explained frantically. "Stubborn man," I muttered, hurrying to his side. "You could have fallen." "Don't need help to pee," he growled, but his grip on the walker was white-knuckled. "Right, because you're doing such a great job on your own," I said, taking his arm. "Come on, let's get you there before you end up back in the ER." As I helped him back to bed afterward, he cleared his throat. "Thank you," he mumbled, so quietly I almost missed it. "I'm sorry, what was that?" I couldn't resist teasing. Did the great Eugene just thank a lowly nurse? He glared at me, but there was less heat in it than before. "Don't push it." That evening, as I was finishing my shift, Savannah stopped me in the hallway. "You know," she said, "I've never seen anyone handle Dad like you do, not even Mom." "I've had practice with difficult patients," I shrugged. "No, it's more than that." She touched my arm. "You could have requested a transfer or treated him coldly, and no one would have blamed you. But instead, you're giving him your best care, even after everything he's said to you." "That's what nurses do," I said simply. "Maybe that's what Dad needs to understand," she mused, "that it's not about status or titles. It's about being there when someone needs you." As if to prove her point, Eugene's voice called out from his room. "Fatima?" I shared a surprised look with Savannah. It was the first time he'd ever used my name. "Coming!" I called back, heading toward his room. Behind me, I heard Savannah on the phone with Aston. "You won't believe what just happened." "Your blood pressure is still higher than we'd like," I said, removing the cuff from Eugene's arm. A week had passed since his stroke, and while his speech had almost returned to normal, his recovery was proving more challenging than expected. "I know my own blood pressure," he grumbled, but without the usual bite. "Been a doctor longer than you've been alive." "And now you're a patient," I reminded him, adjusting his medication drip. "A rather stubborn one." Patricia looked up from her magazine. "She's right, dear. You need to listen to her." Before Eugene could respond, Aston walked in, still in his surgical scrubs. "How's the patient today?" "Your wife won't let me leave this bed," Eugene complained. "Because the last time you tried, you nearly collapsed," I pointed out. "Remember?" Aston grinned. "Listen to her, Dad. Fatima knows what she's doing." Eugene shifted uncomfortably, then winced. I noticed immediately. "Pain in your chest again?" "It's nothing," he muttered. "I'll be the judge of that." I pressed my stethoscope to his chest, listening carefully. "Your heart rhythm's irregular. I'm ordering an ECG." "I don't need—" "Yes, you do," I cut him off. "Unless you'd prefer another stroke? This time maybe on your right side, so you can't move at all?" The room fell silent. Eugene stared at me, and for a moment I worried I'd gone too far. Then, surprisingly, he chuckled. "You've got spirit. I'll give you that." Within minutes, I had the ECG machine ready. As I attached the leads to his chest, I caught him watching me with an unreadable expression. "What?" I asked. "You're good at this," he said quietly. "Better than some doctors I've known." Before I could respond, Ivy burst into the room. "Fatima, we need you in 412. Patient's coding." "Stay put," I ordered Eugene. "I'll be back to check these results." I spent the next 20 minutes helping stabilize the other patient. When I returned to Eugene's room, I found him in an intense discussion with Patricia. "Can't deny it anymore," she was saying. "You've seen how she works." They fell silent when I entered. I checked the ECG results, frowning at what I saw. "I'm calling Dr. Thompson," I announced. "These readings concern me." "What do you see?" Eugene asked, professional curiosity evident in his voice. I pointed to the pattern on the printout. "These ST segment changes suggest—" "Possible cardiac ischemia," he finished, looking impressed despite himself. "You caught that quickly." "That's what happens when you pay attention to your patients instead of just their charts," I said pointedly. Later that evening, after Dr. Thompson had adjusted Eugene's medication, I found Savannah waiting at the nurse's station. "Dad's been asking for you," she said. "He's actually been worried you're angry at him." "Me? Angry at him?" I laughed. "That's new." When I entered his room, Eugene was alone for the first time since his admission. Patricia had finally gone home to rest. "You needed something?" I asked, checking his IV. "Sit down for a moment," he said, gesturing to the chair beside his bed. When I hesitated, he added, "Please." I sat, waiting. "I overheard something today," he began, "while you were helping that other patient. The family, they were praising you, saying how you saved their father's life last week. I was just doing my job." "No," he shook his head. "You were doing more than that. You were being what I used to be before I got so caught up in titles and prestige." He looked down at his weakened left hand. "I forgot what it means to really care for patients." "It's never too late to remember," I said softly. "When I had the stroke," he continued, "I was terrified. Not just of dying, but of being helpless. And you didn't gloat or take advantage. You just helped. Even after everything I'd said." "That's what nurses do," I said, standing to adjust his pillows. "We help people regardless of who they are or how they've treated us." "I'm beginning to understand that," he replied. "And I'm beginning to understand why Aston chose you." Before I could respond, his monitors started beeping rapidly. His face had gone pale, and he was clutching his chest. "Eugene?" I grabbed his wrist, checking his pulse. "What's wrong?" "Can't breathe," he gasped. I hit the emergency call button. I need a crash cart in here now. As the room filled with medical staff, I stayed by Eugene's side, holding his hand as we fought to stabilize him once again. In that moment, all the past insults and conflicts disappeared. He wasn't my difficult father-in-law anymore. He was just a patient who needed my help, and I would help him, because that's what nurses do. That's what I do. It was a mild heart attack, Dr. Thompson explained to the family gathered in Eugene's room. Thanks to Fatima's quick response, we caught it early and prevented major damage. Eugene lay propped up in bed, looking smaller somehow. Patricia clutched his hand while Aston and Savannah stood nearby, their faces etched with worry. She saved my life, Eugene said quietly. Again. I busied myself checking his vitals, trying to ignore the weight of everyone's stares. The monitors showed his heart rate and blood pressure were finally stable after last night's crisis. You should have seen her, Mom, Savannah said. She was so calm, giving orders, keeping everything under control while Dad was... She trailed off, her voice cracking. That's enough, I said firmly. Eugene needs rest, not a fan club. Always so professional, Eugene managed a weak smile, even when I was such an ass. Language, dear, Patricia scolded, but she was smiling too. Leandro appeared in the doorway. Fatima, could I speak with you for a moment? In the hallway, he handed me a piece of paper. We found this in Eugene's personal effects when we changed him into a hospital gown last night. It's addressed to you. I unfolded the paper, recognizing Eugene's handwriting despite its shakiness. Fatima, I've been trying to find the right words. Pride makes fools of us all, especially old doctors who think they know everything. I was wrong about you, wrong about nurses, wrong about so many things. Fatima? Ivy's voice interrupted my reading. Eugene's asking for you. I tucked the letter into my pocket and hurried back into the room. Eugene was attempting to sit up straighter, grimacing with the effort. Let me help, I moved to adjust his position. You need to take it easy. Need to say something, he insisted, while I still can. Dad, please, Aston started, but Eugene held up his hand. No, son, this needs to be said. He turned to me. I've been a fool, Fatima, a proud, arrogant fool. Eugene, you don't have to. Yes, I do. His voice was stronger now. I looked down on nurses my entire career, thought they were beneath me. But these past 2 weeks, you've shown me what real healthcare is about. The room was dead silent. Even the usual hospital bustle outside seemed to have quieted. You didn't just treat my symptoms, he continued. You treated me, the scared, stubborn old man who needed help but was too proud to admit it. You showed more dignity and professionalism than I ever did, even when I was at my worst. Patricia was crying quietly. Savannah moved to put an arm around her mother's shoulders. I wrote you a letter, Eugene said. Did they give it to you? I patted my pocket. Just got it. Haven't finished reading it yet. Read it later, he said. Right now, I want everyone to hear this. He took a deep breath. I'm sorry, Fatima. For everything. For every dismissive comment, every insult, every time I made you feel less than what you are. An exceptional healthcare professional and an even more exceptional person. Eugene, I started, my own eyes growing wet. Let me finish, he insisted. Aston, you chose well, better than your old man deserved. And Fatima, he reached for my hand. I'd be honored if you'd continue to be my nurse, and my daughter-in-law. I squeezed his hand, unable to speak for a moment. Aston came up behind me, placing his hands on my shoulders. Well, Ivy said from the doorway where she'd been watching. I never thought I'd see the day. Neither did I admitted, wiping my eyes. But Eugene, this doesn't mean I'm going to stop bossing you around. You're still my patient. He laughed, then winced, clutching his chest. Wouldn't have it any other way. Speaking of which, I checked my watch. It's time for your medication and some rest. Everyone out. As the family filed out, Patricia hung back. Thank you, she whispered, hugging me. Not just for saving him, but for helping him change. Later during my break, I finally read the rest of Eugene's letter. The words blurred as tears fell onto the paper. I hope someday you can forgive an old man's prejudice. You've taught me more about healthcare in 2 weeks than I learned in 40 years of practice. Most importantly, you've taught me that true strength isn't in titles or degrees, but in the capacity to care for others regardless of how they treat you. I'm proud to call you family. Hey, Ivy appeared with coffee. You okay? I showed her the letter. Karma works in mysterious ways, doesn't it? Sure does, she grinned. Now come on, your favorite patient is probably trying to get out of bed again. I tucked the letter away carefully. There would be time to treasure it later. Right now, I had a job to do. The job I'd always been proud of, regardless of what anyone thought. Ready for your discharge? I asked, wheeling a wheelchair into Eugene's room. 3 weeks had passed since his admission, and he was finally going home. I can walk, he protested, but there was no bite in his words anymore. Hospital policy, I reminded him. Besides, I've earned the right to wheel you out of here. He chuckled, allowing me to help him into the chair. That you have. Patricia bustled around the room, gathering their belongings. Don't forget the letter, dear. What letter? I asked. Eugene pulled an envelope from his robe pocket. You'll see, but not until after the party tonight. The family had planned a dinner to celebrate Eugene's recovery. I'd tried to decline, saying I had a shift, but Leandro had mysteriously rearranged the schedule to give me the evening off. Speaking of the party, Savannah appeared in the doorway. Everything's ready at the house. And Dad, the guests are arriving. Guests? I raised an eyebrow. I thought this was just family. It is family, Eugene said cryptically. All kinds of family. As I wheeled Eugene toward the exit, hospital staff kept stopping us. Nurses, orderlies, even the cafeteria workers came to wish him well. He knew all their names now, something the old Eugene would never have bothered to learn. Take care of yourself, Dr. Marshall, called Maria from housekeeping. Thank you, Maria. Keep that son of yours studying. He'll make a great nurse one day. In the parking lot, Aston helped his father into the car while Patricia hugged me. See you tonight, she whispered, and wear something nice. This is important to him. That evening, I stood before the Marshall's front door, smoothing my dress nervously. Aston squeezed my hand. Ready? Why do I feel like I'm walking into something bigger than a family dinner? He just smiled and opened the door. The house was full of people, but not just the usual family members. I recognized faces from the hospital. Ivy, Leandro, Maria, the physical therapy team, even Dr. Thompson. They all turned to applaud as we entered. What's going on? I whispered to Aston. Eugene stood up from his chair, steadier now but still using a cane. He cleared his throat for attention. Thank you all for coming, he began. Most of you know why we're here, but my daughter-in-law seems confused. He smiled at me. Fatima, come here, please. Bewildered, I walked to the center of the room. 3 weeks ago, Eugene continued, I had a stroke. It could have been the end of me, but more importantly, it could have been the end of my ignorance. He pulled out the letter from earlier. I've spent my career looking down on nurses, believing they were somehow lesser than doctors. I was wrong. He unfolded the paper. This is my formal letter of resignation as chief of surgery. Gasps filled the room. I stared at him in shock. Instead, he continued, I'm establishing the Marshall Nursing Excellence Program at the hospital, a scholarship fund to support nursing education and advancement. He turned to me. And I want you, Fatima, to help run it. Me? I squeaked. Who better? He smiled. You've shown me what nursing truly means. It's not just following doctors' orders or changing bedpans. It's being there in the darkest moments, fighting for patients when they can't fight for themselves, seeing them as people first and cases second. Ivy was openly crying. Leandro beamed proudly. The program will fully fund nursing education for deserving candidates, Eugene continued, including Maria's son, who's already been accepted as our first scholar. Maria clutched her hands to her chest, tears streaming down her face. But most importantly, Eugene turned back to me, it will stand as a reminder that healthcare isn't about hierarchy. It's about healing, about caring, about being there when people need you most. He held out the letter. Will you help me make this happen? I took the letter with trembling hands. I don't know what to say. Say yes, Aston whispered behind me. Yes, I managed, my voice thick with emotion. Yes, of course. The room erupted in applause. Eugene pulled me into a hug, our first ever. Thank you, he whispered, for not giving up on this old fool. Thank you, I replied, for finally seeing us, seeing me. Patricia called for champagne, and the room filled with the pop of corks and happy chatter. As glasses were passed around, I felt Ivy nudge me. So, she grinned, still think karma's finished with you? I watched Eugene moving through the crowd, talking with nurses and staff members he would have ignored just weeks ago. He caught my eye and raised his glass. No, I smiled, raising mine in return. I think karma's just getting started. The party continued late into the night, but it wasn't just a celebration of Eugene's recovery. It was a celebration of transformation, of barriers broken, prejudices overcome, and the recognition that sometimes the greatest victories come not from revenge, but from change. And that's why nursing isn't just a job, it's a calling, I concluded, facing the eager faces of the first class of Marshall Nursing Excellence Program scholars. Any questions? A young man in the front row raised his hand. Did Dr. Eugene really throw a wine glass at you? Miguel! Maria scolded from the back of the room, where she sat beaming at her son. It's okay, I laughed. Yes, he did. And speaking of Eugene... The door opened and Eugene himself walked in, his cane tapping against the floor. He moved slower these days, but his mind was as sharp as ever. Sorry, I'm late, he announced. Had to finish interviewing candidates for next semester's program. The students straightened in their seats. Eugene's reputation still commanded respect, but now for different reasons. Tell them about the patient you had yesterday, I suggested, knowing the story would drive home our point. Eugene settled into a chair. Ah, yes, a surgeon, actually. Brilliant man, technically speaking. But he came in with severe pneumonia, and do you know what his biggest complaint was? The students shook their heads. That he had to take orders from nurses. Eugene smiled wryly. Reminded me of someone I used to know. What did you tell him? Miguel asked. I told him to shut up and listen to his nurses if he wanted to live. Eugene winked at me. Then I told him about how my own nurse saved my life by being stubborn enough to stand up to me. After class, as the students filed out, Eugene touched my arm. Got a minute? We walked to the hospital garden, where a new bench had been installed under a blooming cherry tree. Patricia was already there, holding a small gift bag. What's this about? I asked. Sit. Eugene patted the bench. I've been doing some thinking. Dangerous habit, I teased, but sat down. The program's been running for 3 months now, he said, and watching you with those students, you're not just teaching them nursing skills, you're teaching them dignity, compassion, and strength. Patricia handed me the gift bag. Inside was a nameplate. Fatima Marshall, Director of Nursing Education. We want you to take over the program completely, Eugene said. I'll still consult, but it's time for the next generation to lead. I don't know what to say, I whispered, tracing the letters with my finger. Say you'll do it, Patricia urged. You've already changed so many lives. Think how many more you could help. Before I could respond, Ivy burst into the garden. Fatima! Emergency in the ICU! We need you! I jumped up, professional instincts kicking in. What's happening? Multiple trauma coming in. Car accident. They're asking for our best nurses. I turned to Eugene and Patricia. I have to... Go, Eugene smiled. That's who you are. That's who you've always been. We'll finish this conversation later. As I rushed to the ICU with Ivy, I heard Eugene's voice behind me. That's my daughter-in-law, best damn nurse in the hospital. Hours later, after the trauma patients were stabilized, I found Aston waiting for me at the nurse's station. Heard you worked another miracle, he said, pulling me close. It was a team effort, I replied, leaning into him. Your father offered me the director position. I know, he grinned. He's been planning it for weeks. Says it's time the program was run by someone who truly understands what nursing means. Speaking of your father, I nodded toward Eugene's old room, now occupied by the surgeon with pneumonia. Inside, Eugene sat beside the bed, deep in conversation with the patient. We moved closer to listen. Thought I was too good to take orders from nurses, the surgeon was saying. But watching them work today, especially during the trauma, I've never seen such coordination, such skill. Sounds familiar, Eugene chuckled. Let me tell you about the nurse who changed my life. I pulled Aston away, leaving Eugene to his storytelling. In the hallway, Savannah was posting flyers for the next semester's nursing program. Applications have doubled, she reported excitedly. Word's getting around about what we're doing here. I looked at the nameplate in my hand, then at the flyers, then at Eugene still talking animatedly to the humbled surgeon. Everything had changed, yet everything felt exactly right. You know, Aston said softly, when you first started standing up to Dad, I was worried it would tear the family apart. Instead, it made us stronger. That's because it was never about revenge, I replied, watching a new group of nursing students walk past, their faces bright with purpose. It was about showing people the truth, that sometimes the greatest strength lies in caring for others, even when they don't deserve it, especially when they don't deserve it. Ready to change more lives, Director Marshall? Ivy called, holding up another emergency chart. I smiled, already moving toward the next challenge. Always ready, that's what nurses do.